च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। शिल प्रभुपाद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, निताई गौर प्रेमानंदे, हरि हरि बोल। So once again, thank you very much, dear devotees, for kindly being present here today. And thank you once again, Dhāmeśvara Mahāprabhu Prabhu, for kindly hosting Śrī-Upadeśāmṛtam. And you have been causelessly hosting Śrī-Upadeśāmṛtam, and I am very grateful for that. Your dedication and your diligence is something which inspires me to come every week and speak on the Upadeshamritam. Before I continue speaking, I would like to once again remind the devotees, the dear devotees, this particular series of talks on Śrī-Upadeshamritam is not meant for promotion or criticism of any individual or an institution. This series of talks on Śrī-Upadeshamritam is meant to simply understand the Upadeshamritam. So, at any point of time, there will be no attempt to unnecessarily glorify or canvas for any individual or institution, and there will be no attempt to unnecessarily critique any individual or institution. Having said this, dear devotees, this particular series of sessions on Upadeshamritam is simply for the joy of learning Śrī-Upadeśāmṛtam in detail. I hope all of you are having a great time with me as we study Śrī-Upadeśāmṛtam. And for the same purpose, I had conducted a poll in the group, and I was happy to see that all the participants voted as extremely satisfied. So I'm happy that not even one of them said satisfied or not satisfied or less than satisfied. So I'm thankful to each and every one of you for kindly supporting and encouraging Dhāmeśvara Mahāprabhu and myself in this way. Dear devotees, we are continuing our discussion on Śrī-Upadeshamritam of Srila Rupa Goswami. Currently, we are studying verse number 6, and this is a detailed study. Before we continue, I would once again like to offer pranams to Sri Rupa Goswami through a self-composed verse. Rasasyorjita bhaktescha premanaschaivamritasya cha adyavarnan samagritya rupam chakre hari swayam. Taking the initial letters. Ra from rasa, u from urjita bhakti, pa from prema, and a from amrita. And combining these letters, Sri Hari himself manifested Rupa, our Sri Rupa Goswami Prabhupada. We are very thankful to Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada for teaching us Śrī-Upadeshamritam in such a nice way. All these instructions are the necessary instructions for any sadhaka to become fixed up in understanding what is the ultimate goal of life and how to execute it. So dear devotees, anybody who understands Śrī-Upadeshamritam, they have understood the mode of Sri Rupa Goswami, and then they can add all the details from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Dear devotees, our 6th verse is as follows. Drishtai svabhava janitairvapushascha doshair na prakritatvam bhakta janasya pashyet gangam bhasam na khalu buddhudapena pankair brahmadravatvam apagacchati niradharmai. in this world due to seeing the faults arising out of the nature or the body of the devotees. One should never perceive mundaneness in relation to them. These devotees are just like the waters of the Ganga that never give up their status as a spiritual liquid, merely due to the presence of apparent faults of water such as bubbles, foam, and dirt. So we have discussed this in some detail in the previous session. And in the previous session, we halted at an image of Ganga in the monsoons and Ganga in the autumn season. That is where we halted last time. And as I said, Ganga in the monsoon displays many apparent faults. But are these faults the faults of Ganga, or are these faults the faults of water? Are these faults found only in the Ganga, or are these faults found in all waters? So Dhāmeśvara Mahāprabhu, what is the answer?
The faults are found in all waters.
Yes. So similarly, the faults in devotees are those faults which are found in all people of the world. Yet, there is a big difference between these faults when they occur in other people and when they occur in the devotees. And what is the big difference? Sri Rupa Goswami says, Na pashyet prakritatvam. Don't perceive mundaneness in the devotee just because you see some faults. Question arises, why? Why should I not see mundaneness in the devotee when some faults are arising within that particular devotee? Unless this why is answered to a satisfactory degree, we will not be able to convince ourselves. Because from an external point of view, the devotee's body may seem to be exactly like the non-devotee's body. From an external point of view, the devotee's faults may look to be exactly the same as the faults of the non-devotee. So why is it so that we should not perceive mundaneness only for the devotee, whereas we should perceive mundaneness for the non-devotee? So there has to be a satisfactory answer to this why. And once we are able to give a satisfactory Siddhantic answer, then we will be able to convince ourselves. So dear devotees, the satisfactory answer begins with understanding that there is a big difference between the non-devotees, or those who are running after worldly pleasures, and the devotees. There's a big difference between these two individuals. What is the big difference? When it comes to the non-devotees, the non-devotee is controlled by his or her karma. Now, where is the praman for this? That a person is controlled by their karma. So the pramana for this is given in the Bhagavad Gita. In the Bhagavad Gita, Shri Krishna says in the 15th chapter, Karma anubandhini manushya loke. Karma anubandhini. The bonds of karma, repeated bonds of karma, apply in which form of life? Manushya loke. In the human form of life. So, all these bonds of karma are applicable to the human. Anubandha. Anubandha means human beings have the capability of creating new karma. Therefore, human species is known as karma yoni, the birth in which new karma is created. In all other species of life, we are not creating new karma. Other species of life are known as bhoga yoni. Bhoga yoni means either we are exhausting our pious credits or we are exhausting our impious credits. But in human form of life, there is the opportunity to create new pious credits, and there is the risk of creating new impious credits. So karma anubandhini, the anubandha, the new bonds of karma are applicable only in which loka? Manushya loke, as the Bhagavad Gita says. So for the non-devotee who has taken a human form of life, they are subject to creating new karma and they are subject to bonds of old karma. But what about the devotee? Is the devotee subject to creating new karma? And is the devotee subject to bonds of old karma that he or she has created in previous lives? If we are able to answer this question, we will see the distinction between a non-devotee and a devotee. And once we are able to understand the distinction between a non-devotee and a devotee, we will be able to realize why Sri Rupa Goswami was saying, Na prakritattvamiha bhakta janasya pashya. Don't see mundaneness in relationship with the devotees. So dear devotees, in order to understand this, we first have to understand what is karma and what are the types of karma. We all know karma is one of the five objects that exist in the material world. What are the five objects that exist in the material world? So first is Ishvara, that is Bhagawan. Second is Prakriti, is material nature. Then third is Jiva, the minuscule living entity. Fourth is Kala, time factor. Fifth is Karma, the karma factor. So these are five factors of the material world as Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan has described in his introduction to Bhagavad Gita. Karma is anadi. We do not know when it began, beginningless. So karma is beginningless for each and every one of us who are trapped here in the material world. And every karma that we perform in the human form of life, it generates a particular reaction which is awarded to us in subsequent lives. Dear devotees, Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan says that karma is of three types. And I request all of you to pay close attention because this understanding of karma is very unique. And once understood, it will be very liberating for all of us to know how karma works, dear devotees. Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan says karma is of three types. Please hear the three types of karma. The first type of karma is known as Sanchita karma. The meaning of the term Sanchita is stored. Stored karma, Sanchita karma. Another name for Sanchita karma is aprarabdha karma. This karma refers to cumulative, the mass of karma from previous human lives. And it is a big stockpile which is waiting to bear its fruit in future lives. This karma will not bear fruit in this life. It is a big stockpile which will bear its effect in future lives. So this karma will not touch us in this life, dear devotees. This is known as Sanchit karma. Now, once we have understood Sanchit karma, then second is Prarabdha karma. Now, from that Sanchit karma, one particular heap of karma is taken and this body of ours is formed. Now, this is that karma which starts bearing its fruit in the current life and since the birth of the current body. So ever since we took birth in the womb of the mother, we are subject to one karma which is Prarabdha karma. And this karma will definitely, most philosophers say that one has to enjoy or suffer Prarabdha karma. So dear devotees, this karma is the most difficult to remove. And the third karma, dear devotees, Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan explains, is kriyamana karma. New karma which we are creating in the current human form of life. So these are the three types of karma. In order to help us understand these three types of karma, other acharyas, not Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan, other acharyas have given us an analogy. The other acharyas give us the analogy of an archer, a bowman. Think of a bowman who has a quiver of arrows behind his back. The bowman takes out one arrow and shoots that arrow. The arrow ends up hitting the target. After shooting that arrow, the bowman sits down and crafts a new arrow. Dear devotees, the arrows in the quiver are compared to sanchita karma. Now that one arrow which the bowman took out and which he shot and which will definitely hit the target, nobody can stop it. That released arrow is compared to prarabdha karma, which we are experiencing in the current life. And then the new arrow which he is crafting is kriyamana karma. And this new arrow, he will either put it back in the quiver or either he can directly shoot it. So either it can go to sanchit karma or either it can be experienced in this life. Some negative karma is experienced in this life itself. For example, a student was expected to study. A student did not study properly. Instead, spent his time in doing something else. Dhāmeśvara Mahāprabhu, the result of such karma will be experienced in this life or the next life?
In this life, we call it instant karma.
Yeah, instant karma. So some kriyamana karma, some new karma will be experienced in this life itself. And some kriyamana karma will be stored in the quiver to be experienced in future lives. So dear devotees, please understand this terminology of sanchita, that is aprarabdha, prarabdha and kriyamana. Once we understand these things, we should know that these three are applicable to the non-devotee. All these three are applicable to the non-devotee. But, dear devotees, Srila Rupa Goswami says, and all the acharyas have said, that for the devotees, all these three types of karma are destroyed. Even the most difficult one. Dhāmeśvara Mahāprabhu, which is the most difficult karma to destroy amongst the three?
It's the manifest karma, and particularly the karma that's led to the formation of your birth and body.
Yes. So the prarabdha is the one which is most difficult to destroy. Sri Rupa Goswami says even prarabdha will be destroyed. All varieties of karma will be destroyed. In Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Sri Rupa Goswami says that Uttama Bhakti, or Bhakti, has 6 characteristics. The first one is Klesha, Gni. She destroys all suffering. And Sri Rupa Goswami says in a verse, Aprarabdha phalam papam Kutam bijam phalonmukham Kramenaiva praliyeta Vishnu bhakti ratatmanam. Sri Rupa Goswami says, Vishnu bhakti ratatmanam. For those who are engaged sincerely in Vishnu bhakti, Krishna bhakti, their sins, their papam, are destroyed, but in a particular sequence. Which sequence? First is aprarabdham. First is aprarabdha is destroyed. Sanchita, that big stockpile, is first destroyed. Phalam, papam, and then kutam. Then second is kuta is destroyed. That heap of karma from aprarabdha that will soon bear fruit. Means that which is about to become prarabdha. And bijam, karma which will bear fruit in the immediate next life. And phalonmukham, and prarabdha also finally will be destroyed. So he says this in Bhakti Rasamrita. Dear devotees, let me explain this with the help of another analogy so that it becomes easier for us to understand. Because the previous slide had 3 terms: aprarabdha, sanchita, prarabdha, and kriyamana. And this has 4 different terms: aprarabdha, kuta, bija, and phalonmukha. Not to worry, I will explain everything using a simple analogy. For example, dear devotees, take a stockpile of grains. This stockpile is like the aprarabdha, like the sanchita karma from millions of previous human lives. So this, dear devotees, is aprarabdha karma. From this aprarabdha karma, one kuta is taken. Kuta means one small heap is taken. Now this heap is becoming ready to manifest, but it will not manifest immediately. From kuta, some seeds are planted, as you can see on the screen. Some seeds are planted. They become known as bija. And from bija, comes the phala, or what we call prarabdha karma. So dear devotees, this is aprarabdha, Kuta and Bija are also aprarabdha, but they are going towards prarabdha. And prarabdha is the one which is currently manifesting. Dear devotees, all these are destroyed. Bhakti sets fire to the mountain, dear devotees. So first the mountain is destroyed. After the mountain, the small mounds around them are destroyed. After the small mounds, the seeds planted in the ground and the crops are destroyed. All of them are destroyed, dear devotees, for those who are sincerely engaged in Krishna Bhakti. So aprarabdha is destroyed, prarabdha is destroyed, but one remains, dear devotees. One type of sin remains. What type of sin remains? Kriyamana. Can you see new grain being added on the hilltop? So that is kriyamana karma, or new karma that is being added. Now, kriyamana karma is also stopped, because kriyamana cannot be destroyed. It can be stopped. It is in the present tense. So it is stopped completely. And how is it stopped completely? Because devotees offer all of their activities to Bhagawan. So it does not bear any fruit. As Shri Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Tyaktva karma phala sangam nitya tripto nirashrayah karmanya vipravrittopi naiva kinchit karoti saha. Abandoning all attachment to the results of his activities, ever satisfied and independent, he performs no fruitive action, although engaged in all kinds of undertakings. Tyaktva karma phala sangam. He gives up, the desire for the fruits, offers all activities to Krishna. The devotee does in this way. In this way, the devotee does not get any new karma. When the devotee does not get any new karma, then Dhāmeśvara Mahāprabhu, which type of karma is being stopped?
kriyamana.
Kriyamana is being stopped. And prarabdha and aprarabdha we already set on fire. You already set that on fire by performance of bhakti. Does this happen, Dhāmeśvara Mahāprabhu, in the case of non-devotees?
No, Prabhuji.
It doesn't happen. The kriyamana is also not stopped, because the non-devotee does not offer activities to Krishna. And aprarabdha and prarabdha are not burnt, because the non-devotee is not executing bhakti. In the Brahma Samhita it is said, karmani nirdahati kintu cha bhakti bhajam. The karmas are burnt only by executing devotional service. So we set the mountain on fire, dear devotees, and we stopped the influx of new grain. So we stopped aprarabdha, we stopped prarabdha, we stopped kriyamana. All three types of karma we have stopped or destroyed. Having said that, dear devotees, now a natural question arises. Dhāmeśvara Mahāprabhu, does a devotee have any aprarabdha or prarabdha karma remaining? From whatever you have heard, does a devotee have any of it remaining?
No, Prabhuji.
No. So if the devotee does not have any aprarabdha or prarabdha karma remaining, question arises, then why is it so that material happiness or material suffering is sometimes seen in the life of a devotee? This question was asked 2 sessions ago in one of the Q&A, and I said I will answer this question in a future session when this verse will be discussed. So today is the time to understand why, although devotees don't have any karma, not even prarabdha karma, still devotees experience some material joy or some material suffering. In reply to this, our Acharya Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says in his commentary to Bhakti Rasamrita, he says, Bhaktanam prarabdha samanya nashepi yat sukha dukkham drishyate. He says, although even prarabdha karma in general is destroyed for the devotees, yat sukha dukkham drishyate, still some happiness and distress is seen in their lives. He says, tatra tu sukham bhakteranusangikam phalam. So 2 things are seen, happiness, sukham, unhappiness, dukkham. So first let's take sukham. Let's take the happiness, material happiness of the devotees. Why do devotees see material happiness if they have no karma remaining? So he says, Bhakter Anushangikam Philam, that material happiness is simply a byproduct of their execution of bhakti. And he quotes a pramana. He says, Yatha Narada Pancharatre. Hari Bhakti Mahadevya Sarva Muktyadi Siddhayah Bhuktayaschaddhutastasya Chaitikavat Anuvratan. Hari Bhakti Mahadevya. Bhakti towards Hari is like a royal queen. And Sarva and all other varieties of Mukti Adi Siddhaya, material enjoyment such as also liberation, they are like her Chaitikavat. They are like her faithful maid servants following behind her. So if we see any material happiness in the life of a devotee, it is not because of their prarabdha karma. It is because of the side effect of bhakti that they are executing in their lives. So that is what we should understand. And then he speaks about dukkha. He says, dukkham tu putrachid bhagavad tatta. Now, in some cases, dukkham tu bhagavad dattam. Unhappiness is given by Bhagawan himself. Let me give an example of this. For example, in the case of the Pandavas, did the Pandavas have any negative karma in their lives? No. They are associates of Bhagawan. But we saw a lot of unhappiness in their lives. Now, who arranged for this unhappiness? Bhagavad Dattam. Sometimes Bhagavan arranges for some apparent unhappiness. Yatha Shri Dashame, as Bhagavan says in the 10th canto. What does he say? Yasyaham anugranami harishye tad dhanam shanai. Tato adhanam tyajantyasya swajana dukha dukkhitam. Yasya aham anugranami. If I favor, especially favor someone, just like I favored the Pandavas, harishye tad dhanam, I gradually take away his wealth, just like I took away the wealth of the Pandavas gradually. And tato adhanam tyajanti asya swajana, and then the relatives will also abandon him, like Dhritarashtra abandoned the Pandavas. Dukkha dukkhitam, and then they may be seeing suffering one after the other. This is for eternally liberated associates like the Pandavas. What about the sadhakas like us? It says putrachid Vaishnav aparadhadi phalam iti vivechaniyam. And for others, this unhappiness is a result of Vaishnava aparadha, seva aparadha, etc. It is not a result of one's papa or one's prarabdha, dear devotees. So this is the reason why sometimes apparent happiness or apparent distress is seen in the life of devotees. Dhāmeśvara Mahāprabhu. Every day in the world, there is terrible news of suffering coming around the world. Do you recall any news of terrible suffering in relation to a devotee?
Yes.
Okay. And does it happen on that as frequent basis as it happens with the non-devotees?
No.
Definitely, some of us can begin to understand that for the devotees, the karmas have been taken away. All right. I would like to ask another question. And I'm sorry for asking a personal question here. But Dhāmeśvara Mahāprabhu, have you seen devotees who complain that we have nightmares?
No.
No. So, in the Vedanta Sutra, it is specified that nightmares are reactions for very small karma that cannot be given on the gross level. Most devotees, especially those who are initiated, won't even see nightmares. This in itself proves beyond a doubt that most of the karma of the devotees has been destroyed. Even prarabdha karma has been destroyed for the devotees. The acharyas are convincing us about this point that the devotees, especially those who are initiated, at the time of initiation, all the karma is destroyed, including prarabdha karma. So, dear devotees, for us who are initiated, prarabdha karma does not exist at all, and other karma also does not exist. All our positive and negative reactions are controlled by the Supreme Lord himself. Now, Shri Sanatan Goswami also confirms this point in his commentary to Hari Bhakti Vilas. He says, Bahya Sukha Dukkham cha Drishyate. He says, so-called external happiness and distress is seen in the life of the devotees. Taccha loke bhakti mahatmya sangopanartham. This is done by the Lord for the protection of the glories of bhakti. So somebody may say, what protection? Because if everybody comes to know that on becoming a devotee, immediately all suffering disappears, then simply for getting rid of all the suffering, people will artificially become devotees. So in order to protect the glories of bhakti from such non-devotees, in order to prevent such non-devotees from artificially taking to bhakti, the Lord sometimes shows some apparent distress even in the lives of the devotees. Imagine, for example, Dhāmeśvara Mahāprabhu. Tomorrow you become a devotee and everyone in your temple becomes a devotee and everybody becomes completely free of all negative reactions and everybody becomes permanently happy. Will the society notice or not notice?
Don't notice.
And then they will ask a question, how did it so happen? And then the devotees will say, oh, it happened because we became devotees. And then everybody will become devotees simply for one motivation, that is to get rid of their suffering. But Bhagawan does not want this. Bhagawan wants to protect the glories of bhakti only for those who are voluntarily taking to devotional service. So this is one reason that Sri Sanatan Goswami specifies. He says, Bhaktena va tenaiva atma chhadanartham shaktya sampradarsyate iti gyayam. Sometimes some advanced devotee also by his own potency displays some suffering, external suffering, in order to protect himself. Like we see in the life of Shri Madhavendra Puri. At the very end of his life, he was crying and saying, I could not attain Krishna, I could not attain Krishna. And Ramachandra Puri, he started criticizing him, saying, why are you lamenting like an ordinary person? So he was not lamenting like an ordinary person. He was externally showing some distress so that the actual glories of bhakti will not be visible, to the common people. So dear devotees, in this way, Bhagavan sometimes hides, sometimes the devotees hide the glory of bhakti. But most of the sufferings, especially the heavy sufferings that are seen in the lives of non-devotees, are absent in the lives of devotees. Some happiness or distress is seen. That is either arranged by Bhagavan or sometimes, it is a result of Vaishnava aparadha, seva aparadha, etc. But it is only a token suffering. Now, Sri Sanatan Goswami also says, Akhila prarabdha kshaye deha patapatya. Well, if all karma is destroyed, let's say even prarabdha karma is destroyed, then will we be able to sustain our body? Dhāmeśvara Mahāprabhu, if all the karma is destroyed, will I be able to sustain this body which I have gotten right now?
No.
No. So deha patapatya, there is the problem of the body falling apart. So Bhagavad bhajana asambhavat, and it will be impossible to render seva to Bhagavan. Therefore, dushprarabdha kshaya eva, only the negative reactions are destroyed and the positive reactions are the one which are keeping the body still floating in the material world. This is what he says. If all prarabdha, positive as well as negative, is destroyed, then the body itself will be destroyed. And thus one's bhajan will become impossible. Therefore, only negative prarabdha is destroyed and the positive prarabdha maintains the body. This is confirmed also by another acharya named Shri Mukunda Goswami. He says, Bhajana sahayakanam anya karmanam satvan na dehapata. The devotee does not immediately quit the material body on destruction of all karma. This is because the devotee continues to execute some karma that is favorable to bhakti. What karma? Performing prescribed duties, daily bath, etc. Some pious karma. And this wafer-thin level of pious karma maintains the body, and because of this, the body of the devotee is not destroyed immediately on taking initiation. So this is the conclusion of all the acharyas, and they are all falling in the same line. Dear devotees, please know that we do not have any sort of karma after initiation, neither prarabdha nor aprarabdha. And the kriyamana, the new karma, is stopped because we offer all of our karma to Bhagavan, dear devotees. So this is the clear siddhanta that all the acharyas have given for us. Now, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, still there are some people who are very doubtful people. Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, please don't be doubtful. He says, Kaischitto nama kirtanadit vatam bhaktanam premalinga adarshanena papa pravrityacha na kevalam aparadha karpyate. He says, devotees sometimes regularly perform kirtan, but even after performing kirtan, you don't see, after performing bhakti, you don't see symptoms of prema in them. On top of that, such devotees are also sometimes seen engaging in forbidden acts. Sometimes they have lust, etc. On seeing this, some ignorant people think of them to be nam aparadhas. Because this person does not have prema, therefore he must be committing nam aparadha. And moreover, some people see distress in the lives of such devotees, and then they think that it is the prarabdha karma of the devotee. Sometimes some people see, oh, this particular devotee is suffering. It is because of his or her prarabdha karma. This is the misunderstanding. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says in the Madhurya Kadambini. He says, he takes two examples. Let's take the example of Ajamila. Dhāmeśvara Mahāprabhu, Ajamila, was he performing nama aparadha?
No, Prabhuji.
Okay. Was he having prema?
No.
And was he free from lust?
No.
So Ajamil does not have prema. Ajamil is not free from lust. But still, Ajamil is not considered as a namaprati. Similarly, if we see devotees who have not attained prema and who are victims to some fault such as lust, etc., does not immediately mean that they are namapradhis. Don't say that you don't have prema because you are contaminated with aparadhas. Devotees are not even namaparadhis in most cases. In most cases, devotees are not even namaparadhis. And forget about the devotees, even siddhas sometimes, Yudhishthira, even in the lives of Pandavas, the Pandavas did not have any prarabdha karma. Still miseries were seen in their lives. So this is not because of prarabdha karma or because of aparadha or anything. Dear devotees, Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says the Siddhanta is that just like a growing tree gives its fruit only after a certain time, similarly the fruit of prema will also be obtained after certain time, even for those who are devoid of aparadhas. Let's say the devotee commits some forbidden acts also, kriyamana karma. Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says they are also like toothless serpents. Let's say somebody is an initiated devotee and ends up committing some forbidden act, like ends up breaking one of the regulative principles. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Damshtroraga damsha iva kimchit kara eva. Eva akimchit kara. It will not be able to harm the devotee. Just like a toothless serpent is not able to harm anyone it bites. So one should know that the diseases, lamentation, etc. of the devotees is not due to their prarabdha karma. Again and again, the acharyas are hammering this point, that there is no karma in the lives of the devotees. Dhāmeśvara Mahāprabhu, does this not categorically make the devotees different from the non-devotees?
Absolutely.
So, because the devotees are categorically different from the non-devotees when it comes to karma, therefore, when the devotees sometimes commit some new faulty karma or sometimes some faulty activity is committed, it does not lead to a fault. The entire body of the devotee is fully free from prarabdha, aprarabdha karma. The entire body of the devotee is like Ganga. Dhāmeśvara Mahāprabhu, the entire body of the devotee is like Ganga. There is no prarabdha and aprarabdha remaining. Suppose the devotee adds a little bit of negative kriyamana karma, does one forbidden act. One glass of polluted water is added to the Ganga. Does that change the Ganga?
No.
No. Therefore, the example that Sri Rupa Goswami had given was of the Ganga. The Ganga's mass is so great that any tiny amount of dirt, etc., added to it will never be able to make it permanently impure. Similarly, the purity of the devotee is so great in terms of aprarabdha, prarabdha karma, that any new negative kriyamana karma will never be able to harm the devotee at all. It's like a toothless serpent. And very soon, in the flow of bhakti, in the devotee's life, this karma will also be destroyed. So this is what it is. So, having said that, this analogy of Ganga is not only given by Sri Rupa Goswami, but another illustrious acharya from another Vaishnava Sampradaya, Shri Vallabhacharya. He also gives this analogy in his writings. Shri Vallabhacharya, in his composition named Siddhanta Ratnam, he says, Ganga tvam sarvadoshana gunadosha divarnana Ganga tvena nirupya syat tadvadatrapi chaivahi. He says, when ordinary waters with all their gunadosh, material qualities and faults, enter the Ganga, nobody describes the resultant mixture in a material way. The resultant mixture is described simply as the transcendental Ganga. Similarly, the faults of an individual exist only until they have surrendered to Bhagawan. Thereafter, all their faults are never to be counted as material. So, please hear the analogy carefully. Dhāmeśvara Mahāprabhu, when water from an impure source takes shelter of Ganga, what happens to that water of that impure source? How is it described? Is it still described as impure water, or does it become Ganga?
It becomes the Ganga.
When a devotee who is not pure in his or her ambitions takes shelter of Bhagavan, will that devotee, the devotee's existence is minuscule, it's a tiny jiva, with his negative samskaras, take shelter of Bhagavan, who is all auspicious and infinite in qualities. So what will happen to the negative qualities of the devotee?
They'll be destroyed.
Yeah. And should they be considered as negative qualities after taking shelter of Bhagavan?
No.
This is what Sri Vallabhacharya also reiterates in his Siddhanta Rahasyam. So Sri Vallabhacharya, he is an illustrious acharya from the Pushti Marga Sampradaya, and he was very close friends with the Goswamis of Shri Vrindavan. So many exchange of ideas took place between the Goswamis, and this may be perhaps one of the exchange of ideas in which both Sampradayas are agreeing upon the same point. So it's not something exclusive to the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya only. This understanding of the devotee being cleansed of all faults is also to be found in other Sampradayas. The conclusion is, and Sri Ramanujacharya specifies this in his teachings in Prapannamritam. He says, Vaishnavanam cha janmani nidralasyani yani cha drishtva tanya prakashyani janebhyo na vadet kvachit tesham doshan vihayashu gunamschaiva prakirtayet. Vaishnavanam cha janmani nidralasyani yani cha. So there may be many faults. Janmani, some faults come with the body, such as birth in a family which is considered as low class. Some faults come with swabhav, nature. Nidra, oversleeping. Alasya, laziness. Yanicha, and whatever other faults are present in Vaishnavas. Drishtva, on seeing them, just as Rupa Goswami says, Drishtai, on seeing them, Ramanujacharya says, Drishtva, on seeing them, Tani aprakashyan, don't reveal to a second person. Never reveal to a second person. Janebhyo navadet, and forget about revealing amongst, in a big group publicly. Forget about revealing it publicly. Don't even speak to a second person. What should I do? Tesham doshan vihaya. Giving up discussions of their faults. Ashu, very quickly. Gudams chaiva prakirtaya. Please glorify the Vaishnavas. So unless we are somebody's guru who has the responsibility of purifying the nature of the disciple, mostly we should try to avoid scandalizing the faults of the devotees. Because this is not because I am saying so, because this is the line direction of thought given by all the previous acharyas. Now there will be, if everybody becomes like this, then who will clean the society of the Vaishnavas of all its faults? So dear devotees, don't worry. There are always some people who take up the responsibility of cleaning the society of the Vaishnavas. But do we have to be that person? So the answer is no. We don't have to take the responsibility of cleaning up the dirt. Why? Because the dirt will automatically be cleansed up in due course of time because it is Ganga. Secondly, the responsibility of cleaning the dirt of the disciple mainly lies on the shoulders of the Guru. And we should not become self-appointed Guru for the entire society. So this is very clearly established by the previous acharyas here. In conclusion, I would like to quote a verse from Shri Prabodhananda Saraswati. Shri Prabodhananda Saraswati says that Vaishnavas are like Vrajavasis because they are all aspiring for Shri Vrindavan. And then he quotes a verse in his Vrindavan Mahimamritam. This verse is in the meter Shardula Vikriditam, same as Shad Goswami Ashtakam. He says, Shri Vrindavan Vasini Sthira Chare Doshan Mama Shravaye Yo Saukim Shatadha Chinatti Nahima Shastrai Rathastrai Shitai Sarvadhishiturev Jivanavane Dvesham Chamatram Chare Dekasyapi Trinasya Ghora Naraka Tamkah Kada Vodhare Shri Vrindavana Vasini Sthirachare Doshan Mama Shravayet. There are some individuals who make me hear the faults of the moving and non-moving entities of Shri Vrindavan. Yosau Kim Shatadha Chinati. Don't they cut me apart into hundreds of pieces with sharp weapons? Actually, such people cut me apart into 100 pieces with sharp weapons. They inflict the same pain upon me. Sarva Dhishitureva Jivanavane Dvesham Chamatram Chare Ekasya Pitranas. Anyone who harbors envy towards even a blade of grass in this forest of the Supreme Lord Krishna, Ghora Narakat, he goes to a terrible hell, which means he will suffer. Tam kaha kada vodharet. Who will rescue such a person and when will such a person be rescued? I do not know. So, he uses a figure of speech to emphasize that one should never critique the Vaishnavas, especially the Vaishnavas who are aspiring for Shri Vrindavan. Dear devotees, having said that, once again, I'd like to thank all of you for joining me here in this series for Śrī-Upadeśāmṛtam. We have discussed almost all the aspects of the 6th verse. Maybe a few aspects are remaining, and if there are a few aspects remaining, I will cover them next time. But mostly all the aspects have been covered. And the sum and substance of this particular verse is that when faults are seen in the devotees, these faults are not like the faults of the non-devotees. What is the philosophical reason? The non-devotees suffer from 3 types of karma. What are the 3 types of karma? Sanchita karma, also known as aprarabdha karma. The second is prarabdha karma. Third is kriyamana karma. I will once again explain what are these 3 karmas. Sanchit or aprarabdha is the stockpile karma, which is from millions of previous human lives. This karma will not come in this life, but it is waiting for to be fructify in future lives. This is sanchit karma or aprarabdha karma. Second is prarabdha karma. From that, one heap of karma is taken and this body is formed. Now in this body, we will enjoy or suffer. That is known as prarabdha karma. And third is kriyamana karma. New karma is being created. So for the devotee, sanchit and prarabdha are both destroyed and kriyamana karma is completely stopped. This is what happens with the devotee. For the non-devotee, these are neither destroyed and the kriyamana karma is not stopped. Categorically, no matter what the faults in a devotee are, categorically the devotee is different from the non-devotee. Sometimes, even though somebody is a devotee, one may end up committing a very heinous act. Sometimes there are some who are wearing the dress of a devotee and they may end up committing some very heinous act. So definitely, there will be suffering for that act. No doubt there will be suffering for that act. But that suffering is not due to their karma. That suffering is given either by Bhagawan because of the aparadhas that they have committed. For example, if a Vaishnava physically abuses, beats, or if a Vaishnava kills another Vaishnava, Dhāmeśvara Mahāprabhu, is that counted as papa or is it counted as aparadha?
Both?
Previously, I had specified in the previous talk, there are 6 transgressions towards a Vaishnava. 6 types of Vaishnava aparadhas. Do you remember which was the
Hunting
first one?
and dvashti.
Oh, wonderful.
So the first one is hunti, which is to kill.
To kill or even to physically assault. So even if somebody physically assaults or kills a Vaishnava, it is considered as an aparadha. It is not categorically considered as a pap. So somebody who has physically tortured or abused a Vaishnava, even though they may be a Vaishnava themselves, they have committed a very grievous Vaishnava aparadha. It still doesn't fall under the category of papa. The result of this Vaishnava aparadha will be given by Bhagawan's arrangement. So the result that such a person will experience will be by Bhagawan's arrangement, not by the laws of karma. So this is the understanding that we need to have, because sometimes a person commits a grievous aparadha against Vaishnavas. So still the reaction will not be given by material nature. The reaction will be given by Bhagawan himself. So this is the understanding that we all need to have regarding Vaishnavas who are, especially those Vaishnavas who are initiated. Their complete, their positive and negative reactions are completely in the hands of Bhakti Devi and Bhagawan. Positive reactions by Bhakti Devi, negative reactions by Bhagawan. So the mother gives happiness and the father is strict, dear devotees. This is what it is in the case of the devotees. So the mother is Bhakti Devi. She gives all the positive material benefits. And the father is Bhagawan Shri Krishna, who is a little strict, as traditionally fathers are. And he gives the negative reactions on seeing the aparadhas that a person has committed. So this is what is the sum and substance of the verse. Dear devotees, at this point of time, I would like to conclude the verse with a parallel mirror verse, because at the end of every verse, there is supposed to be a parallel mirror verse. And here is the parallel mirror verse. Deha jeva svabhavothe bhaktanam dosha darshane prakritatvam na drakshyami kadapi rupateshvaham. O Shri Rupa, when faults born out of the body or the nature of devotees are seen, I will never perceive materialism to be present in them at any point of time. With this, dear devotees, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for kindly being present here. And I hope that all of you will also mercifully forgive my faults, because I have many faults, dear devotees. And sometimes when I'm speaking to a big number of devotees, Sometimes I say something, but even though, I may take it very casually, sometimes some words may affect some of us deeply. So if it has ever happened like that, then I would like to request all of you to kindly excuse my faults. Yadatra skhalitam kinchit vidvamsah purayantu tat. Yadatra saushthavam kinchit tad guroreva me nahi. Yadatra skhalitam kinchit. If there were any faults in the presentation, dear devotees, Gangatvam, you are vidvans. Please don't mind these faults. Please cleanse these faults just like the Ganga cleanses all the faults. Please. And yadatra saushthavam kinchit. If there's anything nice, please remember tad guroreva. It belongs to my Gurujanas. Me nahi. It doesn't belong to me. So if in the Ganga there are good qualities, what are the good qualities of Ganga? She is Brahmadrava. She is spiritual liquid. But why is she Brahmadrava? Because that great good quality is because of her Gurujana, Bhagawan Vishnu, who touched her. It's not because of her, because there are many rivers, but only she was touched by the lotus feet of Bhagawan Vishnu. So similarly, if you see any good qualities in this presentation, it was because it was touched by the pada, the lotus feet or the poetry of the Gurujanas, the devotees. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dhāmeśvara Mahāprabhu Prabhu. Thank you all, dear devotees. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Jiva Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hari Pārṣada Prabhu, for another really enlightening class. I can see why 85 devotees voted that they're extremely satisfied with the classes, and no one made any other vote. We're so lucky to be here. So we'll go now to questions, and I'll call on you one by one. Please try to leave time for everyone else, because we'll have a lot of questions, and if you have further questions, then you can just go to the back of the line and go through again. And with that, we will start with Vishwadeep Roy Prabhu.
Dandavat Pranam Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Today we have got a overview of all the aspects, that how devotees categorically different from non-devotees, and how all the rules apply, how rules apply differently to devotees than non-devotees. Now, Prabhuji, you have mentioned two aspects, that one should be a devotee and Dikshit devotee. So what is the position, and what rules will be applied for two categories of people? One who is a devotee in his acaran but till now not Dikshit, and second who is Dikshit but through his acaran he is not a ideal devotee.
So your question is, let's take two cases. Somebody is a devotee but not initiated, a very, very good devotee following all the rules and regulations but not initiated. What is their case? And what is the case of a person who is a devotee, initiated devotee, but not good in their character? So in the Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, the first limb of bhakti that has been described is Guru Padashraya, that you take shelter of a bona fide Vaishnav Guru. As long as a person has not reached the point of taking shelter of a bona fide Guru, and by taking shelter I don't mean initiation, but at least understanding that this person is my Guru, till that point of time one is still not guided properly, because one has not yet received that particular person. The pivot of his spiritual life lies in the Guru. So all other good qualities, acaran you're saying is very good, that is okay, but they can be swept away at any point of time by a strong influence. So only when the person gets the strong pivot of a Guru, that their good qualities are fixed. Because
that is Diksha only, or just Padashraya?
Padashraya. That's what Sri Rupa Goswami says. Padashraya. Second is Krishna Diksha Di Shikshana. So first limb is Guru Padashri. So that is, they should take first and foremost mentally, they should accept a Guru. That principle is always there. So till that point of time, that till they have not accepted a Guru within their hearts, at least till that point of time, they may be chanting Harinam, and Harinam has the capability to destroy all, including Prarabdha. But Harinam is independent. It may destroy or it may not destroy. But for somebody who has initiated, this definitely destroyed. So there is no, may be destroyed or may not be destroyed. But with Harinam, Harinam has its own sweet will. Harinam may do it, may not do it. Why it doesn't do it is not, it is not bound by a contract. Secondly, somebody who is initiated, but whose character is not so good. So there is no pap for them. As Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, there's aparadha for them. There's no question of pap for these transgressions, such as, not being able, not having some forbidden desires within the heart. It does not add to pap. Why does it not add to pap? Because every morning when they wake up, they are remembering Krishna. Every day they are chanting Bhagawan's Naam, and they are not thinking that I am chanting this to remove my sinful activities. They are chanting Bhagawan's Naam. So Bhagawan's Naam has that capability that all the pap, which was supposed to accrue, will never accrue upon them. So they will never be embroiled in pap. There is a small chance that they may be embroiled in aparadha. But that too a small chance.
My second part of question was, if he means you said that he does not expect anything from the chanting, but suppose he does not follow anything after Diksha, like he means all the, even he doesn't chants also, means
then he becomes the same case like Ajamila. Ajamila was a Brahmana. He underwent Diksha, Brahman Diksha. After that, he stopped following everything. And not only did he stop following, he also started committing forbidden activities. But still, just like Ajamil was delivered by Bhagawan's Naam, this person is also similarly, this person also can be delivered by Shri Bhagawan's Naam. But there is one aparadha which is, obviously the one aparadha is going to get applied in the case of other devotees. The one aparadha which is going to get applied is Guru or Avagya. If the Guru said you should perform some limb of bhakti and he did not perform that limb of bhakti, the Guru said you should perform a certain amount of japa, he did not perform that amount of japa. So that aparadha may start applying to this particular devotee. So this devotee should be careful about it. So that is what it is. Right? That is the answer to your query.
Thank you, Prabhu. Very good.
Very good.
Next we have Ananda Gopika Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
My pranams.
My pranams. I had a question about aprarabdha karma in relation to non-devotees, and then what is the relationship between going to heavenly and hellish planets and then still having some aprarabdha karma? So is there somewhere, is it mentioned that how much will be removed and how much will be stored? So I had that question probably.
No, that is not mentioned anywhere. But generally one goes to heavenly planets based on the kriyamana karma that one has performed in this life. So generally that the kriyamana karma that one performs, and if that is good karma, pious karma, then one goes to heavenly planets based on the kriyamana karma that one has performed in this life. Now some of that kshina punya, when it is depleted, so some of it remains. That is added to the stockpile. And then the person descends again to the earthly planets. Then from the stockpile, a new heap is taken and he is given another birth. So that is what it is. So mainly one elevates oneself to heavenly planets based on the kriyamana karma of this particular life. And when that karma is exhausted, kshina punya, when that kriyamana karma was exhausted, and then he comes back here. But whatever was remaining, little pious was remaining, that is added back to the stockpile, and from that, another heap is taken and his new prarabdha is created. So that is the answer to your query. I hope that satisfies your query.
Yes, yes, Prabhuji. And what about the hellish? Is it the same for the hellish also?
Yeah, it is same for the hellish. Now, then why are we maintaining the stockpile? Question arises, why are we maintaining? Because if that person attains other species of life, like animals, fish, tree, etc., then that stockpile is exhausted in those species of life.
Okay.
So
Got
that is
it.
what it is maintained for. I hope that clarifies. Right?
Yes, yes. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Next, I have a question, Prabhuji.
Yes, sure.
Do these rules we applied about these rules we learned today about karma, do they apply to a general theist who's not particularly a devotee of Vishnu or Krishna?
To a particular theist who is not a devotee of Vishnu and Krishna, these rules of karma you are saying?
Yeah, someone who believes in an omniscient, all-powerful, all-loving God, but doesn't see that God particularly as Krishna or Vishnu.
So, a person may not see the Supreme Lord as Krishna or Vishnu. That is okay. But until they reach the point of Brahma Jigyasa, at least they should see the absolute truth as impersonal, all-pervading. Till that point, they may be pious, but they are counted as pious people, which means they will get pious credit for it. But if their piety or theism takes them to the point that they come minimum to the level of Brahma Jigyasa, or seeing the absolute truth as the impersonal, all-pervasive, till that point of time, they have not gained entry into this special category of individuals whose karmas are getting destroyed. So till that point of time, they don't have an entry. Now, somebody may be a Christian or maybe belonging to some other religion, but even amongst the Christians, some are spiritual to such an extent that they see the all-pervasive impersonal truth. They see the absolute truth as impersonal and all-pervasive. So those who are having this Brahma Jigyasa, for them, the bonds of karma start getting slackened. So they enter into a special category. So the minimum you have to be is a Jnani. If you are a Jnani, then you are in the special club. And if you are a Bhakta, then what to speak of a Bhakta? Because a Jnani also has to suffer prarabdha. But a Bhakta doesn't even have to suffer prarabdha karma. So that's the distinction between a Jnani and a Bhakta. A Jnani has to suffer through prarabdha, because prarabdha is unavoidable. But for a devotee, Bhakti Devi stops the arrow in the midair. And the best example of this is that there are devotees who were not born in Brahmana families. So their jati, so their birth was non-Brahminical. But after taking to devotional service, they have become Brahmanas. And the entire Gaudiya Vaishnava society, it facilitates becoming a Brahmana. And how? Simply by the process of Diksha. Now, when, let's say, there was a devotee who was not born in a Brahmana family, they take initiation and they become a Brahmana. Prabhuji, what have we changed? We have changed their very... What have we changed?
Varna?
Yes, their jati. And their jati was something which was accrued right from their birth. So we have changed their prarabdha. Bhakti Devi has managed to change the prarabdha of that particular individual, because their jati itself changes. That is the effect of Bhakti Devi. So they are no longer counted as a Shudra, Chandal, Yavan, Mleccha, etc. They are counted as a Vaishnava and at par with a Brahman. So that is the example of Bhakti Devi changing prarabdha karma. That is the answer to your query. I hope that satisfies your query.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Next we have Shant Madhusudan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for this enlightening lecture. I have just two small questions, if you allow.
Okay. You are mute again, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji. Sorry, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, my first question is that I have heard from the senior devotees that even after initiation, if one doesn't follow instruction of Guru, 16 ounce and following regulative principles, and if he even doesn't feel bad for not following the instructions of Guru, then his initiation automatically gets cancelled. I think that it is from, I think, Hari Bhakti Vilas, but I have heard from authentic place and some senior devotee. So how to understand this, Guruji?
Unless the Guru rejects the disciple, the initiation is never cancelled. There is no question of cancellation. Initiation is not auto cancellation. That, I said this, and many times we think of bhakti as a path of a competitive exam, that if you don't qualify this minimum criteria, your initiation will be cancelled. So no initiation is cancelled until the Guru rejects the disciple. Till that point of time, till the Guru clearly rejects the disciple, the initiation is not considered as invalid. I also gave the example last time of Sugriv, who in the presence of Bhagawan Ramchandra broke all the regulative principles. And he knew that he was breaking regulative principles. He knew that Bhagawan is waiting for my help, and he did not render that help. So did his friendship with Bhagawan automatically get cancelled, Prabhuji?
No.
So unless and until Bhagawan, obviously Bhagawan will also not reject him, because Bhagawan is bound by his word that once I accept somebody, I never reject it. So Bhagawan has also not, and so until the Guru rejects somebody, the initiation is not considered as null and void. But this does not mean that the disciple should take undue advantage of the initiation, and the disciple should follow the vows. Otherwise, it is the disciple who will get cheated. So that is the answer to your query, right?
Okay.
Now,
yes, Guruji.
And is it possible that you can wait, Prabhu, for the second query?
Yes, Guruji.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. We just want to make sure we get to everyone. Next we have Dipayan Prabhu.
Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you for wonderful class. I just want to ask, is this verse complete, or a little bit you're going to cover next week?
There is some scope remaining, and I'm thinking of whether to go in that direction or not. If some scope is remaining, I'll go. Huh?
4 defects I had asked last week.
Yeah, so that scope is remaining. So maybe I'll cover that scope next week, because it's important to understand when philosophical errors and mistakes arise, how to understand. But it's a very sensitive topic, so I'll try to cover some of it next time, Prabhuji. Right?
Yes, bro. Thank you.
Next we have Kaushik Chettiar Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you very much for the class, Prabhuji. One question I had. So it is clear that after initiation, all the karmas are removed. But like this statement many times is given, like the spiritual master has to take the sins if the disciple continues to commit. Even Prabhupada used to say that, like, I am suffering, like the external situations, he said that this is happening because the disciples are not following. So I don't know whether it's like philosophically completely true, or is it just to stop the disciples from breaking the principle. So it would be very good if we can throw some light on it. Thank you.
The question of spiritual master taking up the sins of the disciple, that arises at the time of initiation mainly. Okay. For example, there is a verse in the Hari Bhakti Vilas, and I will quote that verse, because this is the verse from which the entire understanding is derived. I will show you that verse. This verse is in Hari Bhakti Vilas. Swabhapatni papam swabhartari. Yeah. So I'm sharing my screen so that all of you can see that particular verse. Yeah. This is Hari Bhakti Vilas, first chapter, verse 77. Raghi chamatyaja dosha patni papam swabhartari tatha shishyarjitam papam guru prapnoti nishchitam. Raghi cha amatyaja dosha. On a king, the faults of the newly appointed minister are coming up. Patni papam. At the time of marriage, the sins of the wife are coming upon the husband. Tatha shishyarjitam papam. Similarly, the sins of the disciple will guru prapnoti. Guru will attain nishchitam definitely at the time of initiation. Shri Sanatana Goswami says, Guruna tu avashyameva shishya pariksha karya. The meaning is that the guru should definitely test the disciple before accepting the disciple. So the context of the verse is that you should be careful while accepting a disciple, because during the initiation there is a possibility. It does not happen in every case. There is a possibility that the faults of the disciple may accrue to the guru. But after initiation, the disciple commits some faults. There is no such verse like that. After initiation, it becomes a Vaishnava aparadha for the disciple himself. So if they are continuing to commit forbidden activities, sometimes it is said like that, don't commit new activities or something. But if they commit also, the reaction will, if there is any Vaishnava aparadha, to whom will the Vaishnava aparadha accrue? The Vaishnava aparadha will accrue to the individual who is committing those aparadhas. So that is the answer. But before accepting a disciple, because during the time of initiation, there is a possibility that some of it may be accrued to the guru. So therefore, be careful in accepting a disciple. That is what it is. Right?
Whenever like gurus say this thing, maybe it is like we can understand it that it is to stop the disciples to commit like that, right?
Sometimes seniors do like that. Let me give an example from my life. My parents used to say, once you clear 10th standard, 10th grade, you will be happy. So I cleared 10th grade. And I was waiting for happiness. Then my elder started saying, clear 12th grade, and then you will be happy. And I cleared 12th grade. And then they said, you clear your bachelor's degree, then you will be happy. And I spent 4 more years in getting a bachelor's degree. And then they said, you get a good job, and then you will be happy. And then I got a good job. And said, just you get married and have a son, you will be happy. Then got married and I had a son. And one day, when the son doesn't listen to me, then some of them are saying, what is the use of everything? Your son doesn't listen to you. This is what it is. So sometimes gurus, like parents, they give some incentive statements to the disciples. Right?
Thank you very much.
Next we have Venugovind Prabhu. Oops. Asked to unmute. You're on mute, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare
There
Krishna,
you go.
Prabhuji. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Prabhuji, I just have a small question. You used the one word in the lecture, grievous Vaishnava aparadha.
Yeah.
Until one does the grievous Vaishnava aparadha. So can you please shed a light on this word, grievous Vaishnava aparadha? What are covered in this?
No, I use grievous for the most grievous one, which is hanti, to physically assault or kill a Vaishnava. So the most grievous one is to physically assault or kill a Vaishnava. Because there are 6 Vaishnava aparadhas: hanti, nindati, vaidveshti, Vaishnavan na abhinandati, krudhyati, yatino harsham, darshane, patanani, shat. I will show you the verse, and you can see this particular verse is in the Hari Bhakti Vilas and other quoted in other places also. Anti nindati vaidveshti Vaishnavan abhinandati. 6 causes of degradation and fall down are: first, to strike a Vaishnava. Strike means up to the point of killing them. Nindati, to criticize him, hate him, to not welcome or greet him upon sight, to show anger and to not be happy upon seeing him. So these are 6 Vaishnava aparadha. The most grievous one I said was the first one, anti, to physically assault or to kill a Vaishnava. So that is the answer to it. I hope this satisfies your query.
Yes, Prabhuji. If someone physically assault, then only the you said guru have a right to point out that devotee.
No, in any
We don't
fault,
have a right.
in any particular fault, the main right of the main adhikar of correction lies with the Guru. So
Okay.
if the Guru is the main person who can correct, there are other people also who can correct. If somebody has struck a Vaishnava, obviously the members of the Vaishnava society will step up to correct the fault. But the foremost person who has the authority of correcting the disciple is the Guru, and there may be other individuals who have some adhikar on some level, but the foremost adhikar is with the Guru. So that is the answer to your
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Next we have Ravi Rath Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu.
Hi.
Hello. Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dhanavad. So thank you for your class, and I thank you that you also cover many siddhanta which are related but not directly applying to the verse. So like karma siddhanta was very helpful. Prabhuji, my question is, like previously I had asked, it is still unanswered, that Rupa Goswami's incident, one devotee got offended, but Rupa Goswami had not intentionally offended him. So you told you will cover.
Yeah.
If you
So
can...
let me cover it right now. So there are, some points on which, when it is possible that a Vaishnava may be unintentionally, hurt by some of our activities. So when that happens, it is reported that Sri Rupa Goswami was experiencing some samadhi, and he came out of that samadhi. So this is how that particular verse goes, or that particular incident goes. So in Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, Srila Rupa Goswami also says, Bhavo Pyabhavatam Yati. So I will point out this verse. This is in Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, Eastern Division, third wave, verse number 54. Here it is in front of all of us. Bhavopi abhavam ayati Krishna preshtha paradhata. So bhavopi, even if somebody is experiencing the stage of bhav, abhavam ayati, so that bhav will reduce. How Krishna preshtha aparadhata, if somebody commits some aparadh towards a devotee who is dear to Shri Krishna. So one can come down from the level of bhava on committing a Vaishnava aparadha. So the story reports that, Rupa Goswami, he experienced coming out of samadhi at that point of time. So this was, these incidents are not purely within our control. These incidents don't happen frequently. Once in a blue moon, sometimes it may happen. But even if it happens, there are remedies to it. One of the remedy to this is to sing a song named Vaishnav Vandana. So Vaishnav Vandana is by the Vaishnav author Devaki Nandan Das, and I am sharing my screen with you. So this is the song Vaishnav Vandana. So Vaishnav Vandana by Sri Devaki Nandan Das Thakur. This song, you pay respects to all the Vaishnavas. Basically, Vrindavana Vasi Jata Vaishnaviragana Prathame Vandana Kari Sabhar Acaran. So all this song entire you can recite on, frequent basis. And it is said by the Vaishnavas, there is in the Vaishnavas in Vrindavan, etc. They say that by regularly singing this song, all the unintentional offenses are also rectified. Also, unintentional offenses are also rectified by taking exclusive shelter of Harinam. So both these can rectify unintentional offenses towards Vaishnavas. So that is the answer to your query.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Next we have Anusha Yamo.
Hare Krishna. Pranam. Thank you so much for this wonderful class. I wanted to ask that you mentioned about devotees. All the karmas are destroyed in the devotees. So I wanted to know. Many times we hear the glorification of Harinam, that just by chanting Harinam, all the sins are destroyed, and more different things. So And now you mentioned about that when a devotee is initiated, at the time of initiation, all the karmas get destroyed. So what is the difference between a devotee who is chanting Harinam, not initiated, and a devotee who has gotten initiation?
So what is the difference? The difference is that when somebody can chant Harinam, but from where have they gotten that Harinam? It is very important to understand from where a particular person has gotten Harinam. Let's say in the case of a person who is not initiated, they may have gotten Harinam from a pustak, from a book. They may have gotten Harinam. So can Harinam taken from a book also destroy all the sins? Of course it can. Will it destroy in every case? That is upon the sweet will of Harinam. So therefore, whether Harinam will destroy immediately or not destroy is upon the sweet will of Shri Harinam. But upon taking shelter of a Guru and upon receiving Harinam from the mouth of a Uttam Adhikari Mahabhagavat Vaishnav, and upon receiving Diksha from them, obviously, one's sins are eradicated at that very moment of Diksha. When it comes to Diksha, there are no second thoughts. Definitely Diksha destroys all sinful reactions. So when it comes to Diksha, there is definite destruction of all sins. But when it comes to Harinam, it is upon the sweet will of Harinam. Because Harinam cannot be forced against its will to destroy the sins of the individual who is chanting it. So that is the answer to your query. I hope it satisfies your query.
I'm just unmuting her for.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Okay. Next we have Gita Priti Mataji.
Dhāmeśvara Prabhu, in case you need to go at any point of time, please let me know without hesitation. All right?
I'll have to go in about 25 minutes.
Gita Priti Mataji? Yes.
She's unmuted, but just very quiet. Can you speak up?
You have to speak louder, Mataji.
Yeah, so for devotees, the karmas are destroyed at the initiation. So he sustains body only by the thin layer.
I'm sorry, Mataji, we can barely hear you.
I'll repeat her query. I'll repeat her query.
Okay, you hear it?
Please go ahead, Mataji.
Yeah. So does that, because what they may commit aparadha, but they will not have sins. They will not have papa. So does that mean it will be their last birth, or by their aparadha also they can have a next birth? That's what I want to say.
Okay. So her query is that devotees don't have any negative karma, especially initiated ones, only a wafer-thin layer of positive karma that sustains their body. So does it mean that they will all go back to Godhead in this very life? So going back to Godhead is not about extinguishing karma. Going back to Godhead is not simply about removing the negatives. Going back to Godhead is about getting something else. So simple destruction of karmas is not good enough to go back to Godhead. In order to go back to Godhead, one should have prema, Krishna prema. And this is specified by all the acharyas. Srila Jiva Goswami quotes the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 5.5.6. He quotes, in order to prove that in order to attain liberation, go back to Godhead, one has to have Krishna prema. I will share my screen and show this pramana. This is 5.5.6 Srimad Bhagavatam. Shri Rishabh Dev is saying, Pritir nayavan mai vasudeve na muchyate deha yogena tavat. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Therefore, until one has love for Lord Vasudev, who is none other than myself, he is certainly, and I am certainly not delivered from having to accept a material body again and again. So it's not simply about removal of karmas, it's also about gaining Krishna prema. And gaining Krishna prema is not based on a mechanical formula. Therefore, until one has Krishna prema, there is no possibility of going back to Godhead. That is the answer to your query as specified by the Acharya. Sri Jiva Goswami has used this verse in the Sandarbhas to prove the point that only a person who has prema is able to achieve the platform of going back to Godhead. So I hope that satisfies you very.
Amazing how you're able to reference the answers. That's great, Prabhuji. Next we have Omkar Prabhu. Oops. Asking to unmute. There we go.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhuji.
So, am I audible?
Yes.
We can hear you. You're audible.
I had a doubt about this point. Like in Sri Sampradaya or some other Vaishnava Sampradayas, they have this understanding that after taking shelter, the jiva has to complete the prarabdha karma. So we see that even among the acharyas who Vaishnava acharyas who speak about bhakti, they don't always see that prarabdha is destroyed. So can we say that there is a scope of subjectivity in the terms of absolute? Like they have a shraddha in that statements or that part of a shastra which may propagate such siddhanta. So maybe according to the level of shraddha, they will experience the result. Or is it just that any person, regardless of whatever, anyone who is performing bhakti, he may accept it or not, but his prarabdha will be destroyed, which is the Gaudiya understanding.
I don't think that it is only the Gaudiya understanding. First and foremost, I'm yet to see statements. The statements have to be presented where acharyas of other sampradayas are saying that devotees have to suffer prarabdha. So at least I have not seen those statements. If you bring those statements to my notice, I can definitely have a look at them. But at the same time, there are statements in Shastra that all karma is removed for a devotee who has surrendered to Shri Guru and Shri Bhagawan. So those statements also have to be justified by these acharyas. So at least I have not seen any statements from their side, so I cannot make an assumption about the siddhanta of other sampradayas. One thing is very clear in the sampradaya of Sri Adi Shankaracharya, which is propagating Jnana Marga. They have a clear position that prarabdha has to be suffered or enjoyed. But Sri Rupa Goswami and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, it says that prarabdha is also destroyed. Other Vaishnava Sampradayas, I am yet to see a statement to the effect of that prarabdha is not destroyed. So if you bring a statement like that, then I'll be able to, because the Vedanta Sutra takes up a discussion on prarabdha and aparadha, and this discussion is taken up in the third adhyay, third chapter of Sri Vedanta Sutra. So once you see the third chapter of Sri Vedanta Sutra, we'll have to see the commentaries of those particular acharyas, and then we can come to particular understanding about their siddhanta. So let me specify from Shri Govinda Bhashya. I will specify from Shri Govinda Bhashya. This is from third adhyay. See here, Shri Baldev Vidyabhushan says in the Sutra 3.4.16, Upamardam cha. He says, Vidyate Hridaya Granthi, Yathai Dhamsi Samidhognir Bhasmasat Kurute, Jnanagni Sarva Karmani Bhasmasat Kurute Tatha. Many statements are Sarva Karmani Bhasmasat, all karmas are destroyed. This is from the Bhagavad Gita itself. Vidyaya Sarva Karma Vinasham Darshayati. So through knowledge also, through Gyan also, he is saying all the karma, including prarabdha, is destroyed. So Shami Atra Sami Bhuktasya Prarabdhasyapi Taya Vinashi. He says prarabdha is also destroyed here. So first, I am not convinced that other sampradayas acharyas are having a contradictory understanding. So you'll have to bring statements to that effect before this question can be taken up seriously. Right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Done it, done it.
Next we have Paramakaruna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for such a nice class, Prabhuji. So you mentioned about, my question is about, like you said, Dikshita, and definitely it is taken away. But you also mentioned about the point where Guru Pada Ashraya, where one is actually taking shelter of a Guru. So my question is about this shelter taking process, or again, it's not a long process, but at what point and from what kind of Guru does one take shelter that actually starts to then remove the karma, aprarabdha, etc. And the subtlety in the question that I want to ask is it like a more formal process when you take shelter, that I take shelter? We see that within our society, for example, and that's a very nice process. There are designated gurus, but there are also, like, for example, Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj, took shelter of, I don't know when he took shelter, and I don't know the history of how he took Diksha from Gorke Shor Das Babaji. Similarly, Narottam Das Thakur took, from Lokanath Goswami, who were not accepting, they were not like official, who didn't have other disciples, so there was no sort of precedence that they are like a initiating guru, because they probably never wanted to have disciples. So in our case, one can say that I'm taking shelter of maybe Srila Prabhupada or some other very, very, advanced devotee. Again, I don't want to go into the Ritvik side of things. Don't comment on that. But what does that whole shelter taking process, from whom, and does it have to be mentally, or is it there a little bit more of a give and take, like a thing?
So, yeah. So, Ashraya means that the Guru has agreed to be open for entering into a relationship, and the disciple has agreed to aspire for the relationship, which means the Pariksha Kal has begun. So, Pariksha Kal means the time of mutual examination has begun. So that is what you call basically Ashraya. Both, the disciple has taken Ashraya of the Guru, and the Guru is performing Pariksha or test of the disciple, and the disciple is also checking before committing himself or herself, whether the mood is matching or not. So this Pariksha Kal is technically when the Ashraya has happened. And at that point of time, if everything goes well, then Diksha di Shikshana, then Diksha happens, further Shiksha happens, etc. But Ashraya is when a disciple goes to a Guru with Samidha in his hand, with firewood in his hands. Firewood means it's symbolic for, with something in his hand, some gift in his hand, and says that, please accept me. And the Guru says, okay, from today I am willing to consider you. So that is the time from where Ashraya begins. And then when the formal initiation happens, at that particular point of time, the relationship is fixed. And then, this is basically what is meant by Ashraya. So Ashraya refers to the beginning of Pariksha Kal, mutual examination. Now, this cannot happen in the case of an Acharya who is physically not present, like in the case of Srila Prabhupada. Because let's say I go to Srila Prabhupada today, let's say I am not initiated, I go to Srila Prabhupada's Murti today and I say, Srila Prabhupada, I want to take shelter of you. So I have to receive a confirmation that Srila Prabhupada is willing to examine me personally. And that confirmation I cannot receive. And I do not want confirmations from a third source. Because whom do I want to accept? If I want to accept Srila Prabhupada as Guru, I want confirmation from whom? So I want confirmation from Srila Prabhupada himself. So therefore, this mutual pariksha cannot happen in the case of any individuals who are physically departed from this planet. So this pariksha kal does not take place in that. So therefore, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur was, not very much in favor of this Eklavya type of gaining knowledge, where the Guru is not has not done pariksha. Dronacharya did not do pariksha of Eklavya. They did not accept each other formally. And Dronacharya had basically told him, no, I will not accept you. And then Eklavya still continued. And then, in the end, Eklavya ended up becoming inimical to Krishna. And Eklavya was killed by Shri Krishna. So, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur specifies this. So, that is what it is. Ashraya means Pariksha Kal has begun. I hope that satisfies your query, or was there some other aspect to that query?
Another aspect was about, let's say, one approaches Guru, but he does not want to take disciples, or then at what point, then at some point he will say, yes, okay. Is that when it begins, or when the disciple
both have
made
to say
a
yes. Both have to say yes. We can't force a relationship. Both have to say yes. The Guru also has to acknowledge, yes, this particular person is, I'm willing to accept him, in the circle of my disciples. So this is very important, that there should be mutual acceptance of each other. Otherwise, we are forcing ourselves upon a Guru. And then why force ourselves, So that is what it is. So mutual acceptance has to be there. That is why it's a living process. That is the answer to your query.
I have another question. I'll go back in the line. If time permits, we can take.
Round robin.
Yes, I'm.
Thank you. Next we have Sachindra Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for the amazing class as once again. And my question has to do with material happiness. You said that it's simply a byproduct of the execution of bhakti by Bhakti Devi.
Yeah.
So how we see devotees in many different aspects of their life, all of the karma is eliminated, and kriyamana karma is stopped. How do we see what kind of material happiness comes to them, and how does Bhakti Devi award different devotees different material happiness? Because if all their karma is gone, say in their last lives they perform some unbelievable pious credits to make them a billionaire, but that's all destroyed, so then isn't it a little bit unjust for them not to get, at least on the material side, their due karma? How does Bhakti Devi decide then?
Okay. So if they were supposed to get $1 million, but because of taking initiation, that karma did not come, so Bhakti Devi will decide how much they are going to get. A mother will decide how much facilities to give to a child that will be helpful for the growth of a child. Because Shri Mada, or the intoxication of wealth, is one of the biggest intoxications in this world. So therefore, Bhakti Devi also knows, how much wealth to give, how much facilities to give to a certain person. Now, we may have seen, in the society of Vaishnavas, there are some individuals who may not be materially very educated, may not even have a degree. But just because they have 1 or 2 skills, let's say they know how to cook nicely. So sometimes, there are temples who want to invite good cooks, and they will facilitate good cooks like anything. So this person may not at all be, formally educated, but just because he knows how to perform one limb of bhakti, that is cooking nicely for Bhagawan, they are facilitated immensely, and they end up traveling to many festivals and cooking so nicely, they end up traveling the world. And sometimes many educated people who have so many degrees are stuck at their homes in a 9-to-5 job. So, and they can't escape. They long to escape, the miseries of a 9-to-5 job. So this is purely the mercy of Bhakti Devi, actually, that she gives some material facilities to a person who may not be otherwise deserving of those material facilities. And sometimes she takes away some facilities which may harm the sadhaka on his path to the lotus feet of Bhagavan. So that is the answer to the query. I said Bhakti Devi is like the mother. So a mother will decide. So I hope that answer satisfies your query.
Next we have Krishna Das Patra Prabhu.
Yeah, before he speaks, I would like to say something. This question reminded me of my childhood. In my childhood, I used to go to my village for Diwali celebrations. And when we go for Diwali celebration, all the children are given 50 rupees. So all the elders used to give me 50, 50, 50, 50, 50. I used to have at least 500 rupees. One day I had 500 rupees. Then my mother saw, he said, Harshad, how much money you got? I said, 500 rupees. I'm going to spend on myself. He said, bring the money here. I said, why? It's my money. He said, no, it's not your money. So bring the money here. So I, with keeping a stone on my heart, I gave 500 rupees. And, my first earning was taken away by parents. But later I realized that I did not know how to spend 500 rupees at that point of time. And could have easily gotten cheated by anybody. So it is necessary that parents intervene at such a point in order to rescue the child from ill effects of having too much money. Similar is the case with Bhakti Devi. So that is what I wanted to say. Okay, yes, let's continue. So who's next?
Next we have Bhavya Bhagavan. Oh, did I unmute someone else already?
Yeah, it was supposed to be Krishna
Krishnadas Patra Prabhu. Yeah, sorry about that. I just there we go.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Prabhuji, you mentioned that devotees are going through sufferings mainly of two reasons. First one is committing because of committing Vaishnava aparadhas, and the next one is Krishna wants to protect the path of devotion from those people who wants to just get rid of their karmas. So, but in recent cases, like when we see the devotees are killed by non-devotees, in recent cases, like many places in war condition, or in the scriptures, we also see that Pitama Bhishma got killed by Arjuna. So, how can I consider the what condition is applied to in both cases?
Right. So sometimes we see in very few cases, not in general cases, in very few cases, the devotees leaving their bodies in conditions that are inexplicable. We cannot explain by common logic that how could this happen with a devotee. So how do you explain that? So actually speaking, when Shri Krishna was personally present on this planet, a very surprising thing happened. What is the surprising thing that happened? That the Mahabharata war took place and Krishna's feet were touching the planet. Krishna had still not left the planet. Ashwathama managed to enter into the camp of the Pandavas and slaughter the 5 sons of the Pandavas. And Ashwathama slaughtered the 5 sons and Krishna was still there on the planet. Krishna could have stopped. Krishna did not stop. Same Ashwathama, when he goes to kill the grandson of the Pandavas, Maharaj Parikshit, at that time Krishna comes and intervenes. So Bhishma Pitama gets bewildered. You did not stop Ashwathama from killing the 5 sons of the Pandavas. And you stopped that same Ashwathama from killing the grandson of the Pandavas. So at one point of time, Bhishma Pitama ends up saying something, and I'll quote that verse to you. This is from, Bhishma's prayers, and from that chapter, Bhishma Dev says to Maharaj Yudhishthir, Nahi asya karhichid rajan puman veda vidit sitam yad vijigyasaya yukta muhyanti kavayopihi. He says to Yudhishthir Maharaj, O king, no one can know the plan of the Lord. Even though great philosophers inquire exhaustively, they are bewildered. So he's saying, I am also bewildered actually. Bhishma, I am a great philosopher. I am bewildered because that Krishna who was supposed to protect the sons of the Pandavas did not protect him. And unexpectedly, he ended up protecting the grandson. So I cannot understand what logic is behind all of this. So there are some rare incidents in which even the logic of great, learned people cannot apply. We do not know what was Krishna's plan. But one thing is for sure, that the seed of why this happened, the answer to that lies in the future, not in the present. Why did Krishna save only Parikshit? Because Krishna wanted Kali Yuga to fully set foot, and only one person should prevent Kali Yuga from happening, that is Maharaj Parikshit. In doing so, Maharaj Parikshit should get affected by that very Kali Yuga and end up coiling a snake around the sage's neck. And in doing so, Parikshit Maharaj will get cursed. And in doing so will be the revelation of Srimad Bhagavatam. So that why was not determined at that time. The answer to the why was in the future. So these incidents also, philosophers are bewildered because the answer to these incidents does not lie in the present. The seed of that answer lies in the future. But still, everything was fully controlled by Shri Krishna. Because he himself showed that form Virat Rupa to Arjuna, which was consuming all the fighters. So he had shown to Arjuna all of that. It does not mean that Bhagawan is no longer in control. It only means that we do not understand what was the reason behind Bhagawan doing so. I hope that satisfies your query.
Next we have Bhavya Bhagavan Prabhu.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhuji Dhanam. So thank you for your wonderful class explanation, and really grateful to all the devotees who asked wonderful questions also, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Many doubts were cleared, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, my question is like sometimes what happens is at the neophyte stage when there are traces of impurity in our heart, right? Impurities in our heart. So we have a lot of false ego, right? So what happens is sometimes out of just false ego, devotees tend to take offense, Prabhuji. So what is the effect of that? Because just they are hurt. Let's suppose we are going on a yatra and things don't happen the way some devotees expected, or in other circumstances also when things don't happen the way devotees expect, so they tend to get offended in that way. So how, Prabhuji, how can we understand when devotees out of their simply false ego they take offense and
Therefore, in Shastra, offense is not taken. Offense is mainly perpetrated or done. There are 6 Vaishnava aparadhas clearly listed in Shastra. Hanti, Nindati, Dveshti, Vaishnavan Abhinandati, Krudhyate, Yate, No Harsham. I showed the 6 when I was answering the question of Venu Govind Prabhu. Besides this, there is no separate category mentioned that when the devotee feels offended. There is no 7th category mentioned in that. So the response, it's not that tomorrow I feel offended, therefore there was an offense. Some stories like Sri Rupa Goswami story or something like that, some exceptional story might have happened, but that does not set the rule. The rule is that there are 6 types of transgressions against a Vaishnava. If you have not willingly committed one of these 6, then you should not unnecessarily feel guilty all the time about, hurting somebody's sentiments which are overly sensitive. So that is what it is. And by neophyte, I do not know what do you mean by neophyte. So you'll have to tell me what is neophyte, because sometimes devotees spend 20 years and they still call themselves neophyte. So this neophyte has to be clarified a lot, because many times people never grow out of neophytes. So
I mean when they have so when they have a lack of understanding of scriptures and sadhana and
so that is Kanishta Adhikari. So basically in the Kanishta Adhikari still offense is done when you perform one of the 6 transgressions. As long as you're not performing one of the 6 transgressions, you should not overtly bother yourself with what others are thinking. If somebody else is speaking against you, actually it is they who are transgressing against you. So you should be quiet at that point of time. That is all.
So what is the significance of Rupa Goswami's pastime that we hear so often?
All right. So this pastime, I do not know from which source it has come. maybe it has come from Bhaktamal or some other source. So it is an incident, and incidents do not usually fix the Siddhanta. It is Shastra which fixes the Siddhanta. So incidents do not, fix the Siddhanta. So therefore,
So we should
let me complete project. Therefore, incidents like these should first be verified where they came from. Although it's a popularly quoted story, we should verify where it came from and whether, it was mentioned by any of the, even if it has come from a genuine source, still stray incidents do not dictate the Siddhanta. The Siddhanta is mentioned in the Shastra. That is the answer to it.
Yeah, sorry for interrupting, Prabhuji. So we should
maybe we can come back to you,
quoting
Prabhuji.
this. Yeah.
Bhagavan Prabhu, maybe we can come back to you.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'm gonna pass off to Paramakaruna Prabhu now. So you can take over the Q&A, please.
Okay, sure. Thank you, Prabhuji. So next we have Bhakti's iPhone, Bhakti Mataji.
Bhakti.
Asked you to unmute.
Yes, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for everything. My question is on the astrology for devotees, and basically astrology is for astrology in devotees' life. Astrology is all about karma. You beautifully explained about 3 kinds of karma and how they all are vanished and stopped. Does astrology play any place? Because I see a lot of our spiritual masters, also not just general bhaktas, but even spiritual masters taking some guidance from astrology. Also in Bhagavatam, there is so much reference of astrology. Nanda Maharaj for Lord Krishna took support of astrological, not support, but like he invited for, and the astrological reading was done for Krishna. So how would we understand the karma aspect that astrology can show and can probably help in sort of some remedies in the life of a devotee?
All right. Thank you, Mataji. First thing is about Nanda Maharaj and Krishna. Nanda Maharaj was doing out of affection towards Shri Krishna, and it was Garga Muni was sent by Shri Vasudeva to Gokul. Vasudeva Prachodita, the 10th canto says. Vasudeva Maharaj had sent Garga Muni because both Vasudeva Maharaj and Nanda Maharaj wanted to perform acaran, the name giving ceremony for Shri Krishna. At that time, during the name giving ceremony, Garga Muni, did some astrological reading. But was it because Bhagawan is bound by karma? Obviously, no. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Namam karmani limpanti. The karmas never touch me. So, Krishna is not bound by karma. But still, as a Leela, the astrological reading was done. Now, in the case of devotees, if astrological readings are done like Srila Prabhupada used to do astrological readings, not for finding out, is there any bad karma in my life? That is not why Srila Prabhupada did astrological readings. Srila Prabhupada, did astrological readings after, when he started the movement. After starting the movement, he used to refer to astrology for auspicious days when one can head out for a new place, which days to avoid. So these are, some of the things for which he referred to astrology, but he would not take it more seriously than that. So some importance, but not so much important that it, karma has taken over our lives. So we know that karma does not affect, ordinary cycle of karma does not affect the lives of the devotees. Still, astrology can be useful for 2 main purposes. What are the 2 purposes? Purpose number 1, astrology tells us what is our swabhav since birth. What is our nature since birth? So this is what astrology can help us determine, and we can use that nature in the seva of Bhagavan. So if astrology can tell us our swabhav, that is also very good. Second thing which astrology can tell us is, astrology can tell us that what days are auspicious for performing a certain task, what days are not so auspicious. So that is what astrology can also tell us. For these 2 things, astrology is good because it is supporting bhakti. Otherwise, astrology is not influencing the karma of the devotees because the karma is already nullified through Harinam and through the process of Diksha. So that is the answer to your query. I hope, Mataji, that answer satisfies your query.
I've asked her to unmute, but is that okay, Mataji?
Yes, I have a follow-up question, but I'll go back in the queue. Thank you.
Sounds good. Next, we have Maitreya Prabhu. I have asked to unmute.
Krishna, thank you, Prabhuji, for a wonderful class. Prabhuji, my question is, if someone knowingly or unknowingly does Vaishnava aparadha, is there any atonement or prashit there in scriptures?
Yeah, so the recommendation is given in Madhurya Kadambini and other literature. The best thing is to seek forgiveness from the Vaishnava directly. And after seeking forgiveness, to do something to please the Vaishnava. And if the Vaishnava is no longer physically present, or if it is not possible to seek forgiveness from the Vaishnava directly, then to take exclusive shelter of Harinam and to feel remorse for the Vaishnava aparadha that one has committed. These are the solutions given by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in the Madhurya Kadambini. That is the answer to your query.
Sorry, Prabhu. Prabhuji, can you share some scriptural references? You said some Madhurya.
Oh, sure. Why not? You want to see it
Please,
from
please.
Madhurya? Oh, sure.
Yes, Prabhuji. Whatever references you have.
No, it's there in the Madhurya Kadambini. Why should I not share? Definitely, I'll share with you. Let me. Let me share that reference with you. Meanwhile, while I am locating that particular reference, I can answer one more, let me, yeah, can we go to another query meanwhile? So,
yeah.
Or just wait, I found that particular reference, yes. So, I am sharing the screen. Yeah, yatha, he says, Satam Ninda iti dashasu namna prathamo aparadha. To criticize Vaishnavas is the first aparadha. Tatra Ninda iti anena dvesha drohadeyopi upalakshante. There is upalakshan. Ninda also means to, 6 things, to hit a Vaishnava, etc. Tatascha daivat tasmin aparadhe jate. When such aparadh happens, what does the devotee think? Hanta, alas, pamarena maya sadhushu aparadhamiti anutapto janaha. So, alas, I committed an aparadh towards, this particular devotee. Krishanu shamyati taptah krishanuna evayamiti nyayena tat padagra evan nipatya prasadayami iti. So, to fall at his feet, vishanna chetasa, with a remorseful heart, pranati stuti sammana, then to give him pranam, to please him, tasya upashamaha karya. कदाचित कस्यचन कैरपि दुष्प्रसादनीयत्वे बहुदिनमपि तन मनोभिरोचिनी अनुवृत्ति कार्य. If somebody is still annoyed for some days, one should try to do something which is pleasing for them. अपराधस्य अति महत्वात् कथंचित् तयापि अनिवर्त्य कोपत्वे. If it is not possible to do that and the aparadha is very great, then one should think dhing mam akshina bhakta aparadham niraya kotishu patantam. So I'll fall into many hells because of this. Nirvidya sarvam parityajya samashrayaniya nama sankirtana santati stayacha. So we should take exclusive shelter of Nam Sankirtan. Mahashakti matyavashyam eva kale tatah syadevodhara. In due course of time, by Nam Sankirtan, definitely he will be delivered. So this is from Madhurya Kadambini.
Okay, great. Thank you, Prabhuji. Next, we have Harsh Govind Prabhu.
हरे कृष्ण, प्रणाम प्रभु जी। हाँ, मैं आपका आप गौर गोविंद परम पूज्य गौर गोविंद महाराज का ग्लोरिफिकेशन कर रहे थे, वो लेक्चर में सुन रहा था। तो उसमें वो उन्होंने जब भौतिक देह त्याग दिया उसके बाद आप उनकी समाधि पे गए थे और आपने उनको शिष्य के रूप में स्वीकार करने के लिए प्रार्थना की थी। फिर आपको भुवनेश्वर मंदिर में मंगला आरती का वो जो इंसिडेंस हुआ था, तो आप जो बता रहे थे कि जो जीवित गुरु से शिष्य के रूप में से न वो सिर्फ दीक्षा मतलब जो दीक्षा देते उन गुरु के लिए है कि फिर शिक्षा गुरु के लिए भी ये संबंध है? क्योंकि आप अभी बता रहे थे क्वेश्चन आंसर में कि जीवित गुरु को दीक्षा, आप मेरा क्वेश्चन समझ गए?
Yeah. So his question is that should shiksha can be taken from somebody who has passed away also, or somebody who is physically present? So the answer to that is general shiksha can be taken even from somebody who has left this world. That is general shiksha. General shiksha ले सकते हैं, लेकिन specific शिक्षा आप for resolving one's own questions, अपने जीवन के प्रश्न सुलझाने के लिए जो शिक्षा है वो जो वर्तमान है, जो जीवित मतलब जो इस समय पृथ्वी पर है उनसे ही वो हो सकता है. It is only possible from somebody who is physically present. That is the answer to your query.
हाँ प्रभु जी, नहीं मैं ये कहना चाहता तो फिर जनरल शिक्षा ले सकते तो फिर हम आपने ऐसा फिर क्यों कहा कि आप मुझे शिष्य के रूप में स्वीकार किए तो मुझे मंगला आरती का मौका मिला, वो तो फिर उसकी जरूरत क्यों?
नहीं, मैंने ये नहीं कहा था. मैंने कहा था यदि आप मुझे स्वीकार कीजिएगा, आप अपनी सेवा में मुझे स्वीकार कीजिए, तो कभी होगा तो मुझे मंगल आरती का मौका अवसर दीजिएगा. मैंने इतना कहा था कि यदि आप अपने सेवा में हमें स्वीकार कीजिए. मैं अपने आप को शिक्षा में उनसे लेता हूँ, पर मैं शिष्य तब कहूंगा जब वो भी स्वीकार करे. ये बात है, आप समझ रहे हैं?
हाँ तो यस एग्जैक्टली मेरा क्वेश्चन यही था प्रभु जी की, मतलब तो ऐसे इंसिडेंट से फिर पता चल सकता है जैसे आप बता रहे थे कि
पता चल सकता है, लेकिन ये अपनी अपनी श्रद्धा पर है. ये सबको हम नहीं बता सकते, ऐसे सबके सामने हम नहीं कह सकते. ये अपनी अपनी श्रद्धा पर है. ये बात है, ठीक है.
और प्रभु जी हम जो जीवित है उनसे हम कभी शिक्षा गुरु कहते हैं, तो कभी कभी हमें कैसे पता चलेगा कि कैसे अप्रोच करना चाहिए उनको शिक्षा गुरु के हम स्वीकारे शिष्य के रूप में, और कैसे पता चलता है कि उन्होंने स्वीकार किया?
So his question is, how do we know that a guru has accepted us? A physically present guru has accepted us. So the answer is
शिक्षा गुरु
has accepted us. So tadviti pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. By pranipat, pariprashna and seva, these three things have to be done, and direct communication with the guru has to be there. And we should say to them that I want to accept शिक्षा from you. हमको आपसे शिक्षा स्वीकार करना है. ऐसा बोलने के बाद फिर when they say okay, one okay is needed. एक बार okay बोलना आवश्यक है. So that is important. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Next, we will go to Adi Bhagwan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Yeah, Prabhuji. Yeah. Prabhuji, thank you very much, Prabhuji, for today's class and all the references you shared. It was very nice. So my question, Prabhuji, was regarding the point of the destruction of karma. So when I read Bhakti Devi, I understood that when a devotee has developed pure Shraddha, Uttam Adhikari, he has developed the Anyabilashita Shunyam Shraddha, and even though he may be Komal Shraddha personality, but the Rupa Goswami mentioned about Kleshagni is about him also, and it applies to him also. And but today you are also explaining about that initiation is also one is the criteria actually for the karmas to be destroyed. So I wanted a clarification on this, Prabhuji, that if Komal Shraddha person also the Kleshagni is applied, and if yes, to what extent? Because only Diksha, if we consider, it may happen that the person might have taken initiation in some previous life also, and that karma may be destroyed. And in this life, we don't know whether he has taken previously, and but Shraddha he might have from previous life and continuing. So I wanted a clarification on that, Prabhuji.
Okay, the answer is given in the commentary to Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. These are the 6 characteristics of Bhakti: Kleshagni, Shubhata, Moksha, Laguta, Krit, Sudurlabha. First characteristic is Kleshagni. Bhakti destroys all suffering. Shri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Tatra sadhana bhakti kleshagni rupa, Shubhata rupacha. First 2 are present simply on the stage of sadhan bhakti. But Adi Bhagwan Prabhu, when does sadhan bhakti begin truly?
Yeah, when the person has at least Komal Shraddha.
Basically. And when that particular person has formally, even though they may have Komal Shraddha, they have formally taken shelter of a particular Guru. That is when sadhan bhakti actually begins. So, because first step is Guru Padashraya, then Krishna Dikshadi Shikshanam, then all the remaining 62 lives. So, actual execution of bhajan is Guru Ashray Purvak bhajan. So, that is what it is. So, sadhan bhakti, regular bhakti begins, it immediately gives rise to Kleshagni. It destroys all suffering. So, that happens at the stage of sadhan bhakti, even though the person who is performing sadhan bhakti may be a Kanishta Adhikari. So, that's the answer to your query.
Okay. So, okay. Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So now we'll come back to, or is it Shant Madhusudan Prabhu? I can't remember. Did you ask a question already? And then I'll go to Shant Madhusudan Prabhu next, because looks like he's a new devotee.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I had already asked and I am in the follow-up line.
Okay, fine. Then we'll go to
Bhagwati Vasudha Mataji.
Vasudha Mataji.
Yeah.
Please unmute.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji and Pranam. Thank you so much Prabhuji for this detailed explanation, always which is bothering the devotees about karma. Prabhuji, I also now understood that astrology doesn't work on devotees. Maybe it might help in understanding the swabhava and just finding some good time for something doing new or starting something. What is that swabhava, Prabhuji? And what is the, if some prarabdha karma has already started acting, if some person is deceased, will that disease go away? And for example, if one person is not married on time, he's already aged 40. So how can it go? And like that, so many things, like if the person is not blessed with child, like that.
Okay, wonderful.
How can it go?
Wonderful. So there are 2 questions. First is, what is the meaning of swabhav? Swabhav is the samskars one has gained from, is the result of the samskars one has gained from previous lives that manifests as one's swabhav from birth. This swabhav also changes by execution of bhakti. People who were very angry, very cruel, upon taking up bhakti, their swabhav changes. This is seen in many examples throughout history. For example, Prabhupada always used to quote the example of that hunter Mrigari who changed his swabhav because of taking to the path of bhakti. So swabhav also changes. But if somebody wants to know what is my swabhav since birth, some characteristics, positive characteristics still stay. So that is what astrology is useful for. So although, all positive qualities develop and negative qualities are reduced. That is the effect of bhakti on one's swabhav. But still, if one wants to know what is one's swabhav since birth, then one can consult Jyotish. But Jyotish should always remain one step below bhakti. Because if Jyotish goes one step above, then Jnana, Karma, Adi, Anavritam. That condition will be flouted. Jyotish will take over bhakti and it will no longer be Uttama. So that condition should never be flouted. Second thing is, you asked what about prarabdha karma? Let's say somebody has lost a limb. They take to bhakti. Why doesn't the limb grow back? Question is because this is not prarabdha karma which is about to fructify. This is prarabdha karma which has already given its effect. Please try to understand. Bhakti is for destroying which prarabdha karma? The prarabdha karma which is, which is about to take effect in the future. So bhakti destroys that prarabdha karma. In some cases, bhakti can also destroy the effects of prarabdha karma which has already happened in the past. But since that is in an effect stage, effect has already happened, the karma has already vanquished itself. So the karma also got destroyed, and the effect was that somebody lost a limb. So in some cases, bhakti can even reverse that. But in most cases, bhakti destroys the prarabdha which is about to come. So that is what is the answer to the query. I will give an example of destruction of prarabdha which already happened. For example, there was this one particular what is his name, Chapal Gopal or somebody, who had this, who got because of committing an aparadha towards Haridas Thakur, he got, his nose got melted away. So by asking for forgiveness, he was restored back to normalcy. So there are many cases of people who have diseases, and because of practice of bhakti, those diseases go away. So bhakti sometimes can interfere even in prarabdha karma, which has already had its effect. But in most cases, bhakti has its effect on prarabdha karma, which is about to fructify. So that is the answer to your query.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Next is Radhika Prabhu.
Thank you, Mataji. Yeah, I'll ask Prabhuji to unmute. Radhika Vallabh, please unmute.
Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam, Prabhu. Thank you for a very beautiful class. Just I had two questions. One question is about this Kleshagni. You discussed in detail about aprarabdha, prarabdha, kriyamana karma. So, can we say that these are the effects of somebody who practices anyabilashita shunyam, that uttama bhakti, like our devotees, or suppose we can say devotees, many people are practicing bhakti, but maybe sometimes in certain times they are performing anyabilashita, but many devotees, we also have some other desires also. So this Kleshagni is it the characteristic of Uttama Bhakti, or somebody who even practices a mixed Bhakti?
No, by the indication of the Acharyas, it is also applicable to those who practice mixed Bhakti. Because Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur had said, Bhaktanam prarabdha samanyen nashepi. I had quoted that in the class. For all devotees, prarabdha in general is destroyed. In Madhurya Kadambini, he also quotes devotees who have material desires. They are not also suffering because of their prarabdha. So I had quoted that section also from Madhurya Kadambini in the presentation. So by all these indications, it is clear that it is not only for the Anyabilashita Shunyam pure devotee, it is also for the devotees who have mixed bhakti within them. That is the answer to the query.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Should I ask the next question now or later?
If it's a short question, you can ask now.
Okay. Just you even quoted one shloka by Vallabhacharya. How when we find some faults in the devotees, we should not actually discuss in the public. We should not tell to others.
Yeah, that was by Ramanujacharya. Yeah.
But we see that sometimes in our own society, somebody has committed some mistake or this one. But sometimes the issue is so openly available, the whole community of the devotees all over the world, it becomes in such a way that the devotee can never come within the society of devotees. Like that kind of a mood is created. So much of details are available. How do we actually, and sometimes even I see some devotee or leaders, they openly discuss about the fault of some devotee or something like that. How do we deal with such a, how do we see that actually?
Okay. So if any public discussion has to be there, it has to be about principle, not about individual. So if there has, let's say some Vaishnava has committed a grievous aparadha, and if at all the community leader wants to make other people aware of it, then the community leader should talk on principles, not on an individual. So one of the things which I try to follow in this Upadeshamritam session series also is to not talk about individuals, to talk about principles. In principle, we can speak about anything positive or negative and what are their effects. But as long as I'm not highlighting an individual or an institution, till that point of time, it is okay to discuss a principle. So community leaders of the society should discuss in principle rather than discussing individual. Because when we start discussing individual's character, then character assassination takes place. That is when the individual finds himself or herself unable to come to that particular society again. So it is better to discuss, the principle rather than discussing the person. And this is also the sort of mood I would like to encourage in the Upadeshamritam sessions, that sometimes devotees ask questions which are about individuals. They name individual. So rather than taking the name of an individual, I would very much encourage all the devotees who are asking questions to ask principles. Because, it's not only one society or other society which can have a particular issue. All Vaishnava societies can suffer from that same issue. So, it is best to discuss in principle rather than to discuss an individual or a particular institution. And therefore, at the beginning of the session also, and although your question was not targeting any institution or individual, but still, I would like to say that in the beginning, therefore, I also clarified that the Upadeshamritam series will never be about promotion or bashing or criticism of an individual or an institution, because this series is supposed to be institution neutral, and that is how I'd like to keep it. So institution neutral principles and individual neutral principles will be discussed here. So same can be done by the community leaders also. So I hope that satisfies your query.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So now we are into seconds. So we'll start with Vishwadeep Prabhu. Please unmute.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Yeah.
So my question is related, means in my question also I have understood, and from question of Param Karuna Prabhu, you have told about Ashraya, and from question of Adi Bhagwan Prabhu, you told that from when one starts sadhana bhakti, the karma do not get count. So I just want to clarify, is again that is it from Ashraya that the karma do not get counts, or is it from Diksha? So this is my question.
Hey, Prabhuji, if we start seeing it if we start breaking it into such fine hairs, we are seeing the process of bhakti as a mechanical process. It's not a mechanical process. Why can't Bhakti Devi do it even before you start? She can do it even before you start. She's an individual, right? So acharyas, when they divide things into categories, it's not for mechanical separation of events. It is simply so that we can know that around this time it happens. That is what it is. Around this time it happens. Why do we say around that time? Because Bhakti Devi is not a dead principle. Bhakti Devi is a living personality. So she will do it around this time. For example, let's say we have a servant at home. And we have told the servant at 6 o'clock you have to clean the room. Now I come at 6:05 and the room is not cleaned. So I call the servant and say, why did you not clean the room? So that I can tell to a servant. But I cannot tell like that to Bhakti Devi. Oh, it's 6:05. I already begun my sadhan bhakti. Why my flesh is not destroyed? Bhakti Devi will say, because I am Maharani. I am queen, royal queen. I will do when I want to do. Yes, right. So in general, when one begins one sadhan bhakti, having taken shelter of a particular guru, ashraya of a guru and disciple have accepted each other mutually. Diksha may or may not have taken place, but the Diksha is very soon going to happen for sure. And the disciple has begun the process of sadhan bhakti. That is when bhakti starts cleaning the kleshas. At the time of Diksha, bhakti destroys all of it. So that is the answer to your query. Yes. Okay.
Thank you. It's totally clear.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. I have a question next, Prabhuji.
Sure.
So thank you for explaining that whole difference between papa and aparadha, that devotees accrue aparadha, which is the reaction is given directly by Lord Shri Krishna. So and you very nicely explained Nam aparadha and Vaishnava aparadha, 10 aspects of Nama Aparadha and 10 aspects of Vaishnava Aparadha.
6 aspects.
6, sorry, yes, 10 plus 6. My question is, are there any other subcategories of aparadhas that we should know about? We did, other than these two, Nama and Vaishnava, so that we as devotees, as Dikshit devotees, we can be very, very careful about the whole spectrum of all aparadhas. What else counts as aparadhas? Please tell us.
Okay. There is some Vaishnavas say that there is a third category of aparadhas known as dham aparadha. So, an indication to that is given in Brihad Bhagavatamritam, in the Varaha Puran, sorry. For example, I am quoting the verse. Anyatra yat kritam papam tirtham asadya nashyati. Sins committed in other places get destroyed on attaining a holy place. Tirthe tu yat kritam papam vajralepo bhavishyati. But if a sin is committed in a holy place, it becomes as solid as iron. Vajralepo bhavishyati. So it cannot be destroyed so easily. Mathurayam kritam papam mathurayam vinashyati. So, but just see the speciality of Mathura. Even if some sin is committed in Mathura, it is immediately destroyed in Mathura. So you don't need to go elsewhere. Esha Puri Mahapunya. This Mathura Puri is so fortunate and pious. Yatra papam natisthati. That no sin can stay here. In this way, some people say that dham aparadh, because of this first verse. Dham aparadh is one type of aparadh, that to commit sinful activities in the dham. We often find a list of 10 dham aparadhas. But this list of 10 dham aparadhas is not anywhere in the Shastra. This list of 10 dham aparadhas has come from, recent personalities or acharyas. So they have, according to their understanding, given a list of 10 aparadhas, dham aparadhas, and we can carefully consider them. But Shastra speaks mainly of Nam aparadh. Shastra speaks of Vaishnava aparadh. Shastra speaks of Seva aparadh, which are 32, plus there are some more, almost till 59 or 60. Seva aparadhas, which are mentioned in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And plus to take some special care in the dham. That's all. This is what. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has mentioned a category called as Jiva Aparadh in some of his literature, to harm any Jiva in general, any living entity in general. But that can be considered as, because a Vaishnava, one of the 26 qualities of a Vaishnava is akrita droha. It does not harm any living entity unnecessarily. So that is automatically a part of the Vaishnava. So a separate aparadh for that may be considered. I mean, some may count that as a separate aparadh, some may not count that as a separate aparadh, because it is already supposed to be part of a Vaishnav's behavior. So mainly there is Nam aparadh, Dham aparadh, Vaishnava aparadh, Seva aparadh, 4 types of aparadhas. Alright, that is the answer.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for such a clear explanation. Next, we will go to Shanta Madhusudan Prabhu. Please unmute.
Hare Krishna, Gauri. Thank you so much for giving me a second chance. Thank you so much, Gauri. Actually, my question is that you explained that entire body of devotee doesn't have any kind of karma. Any of initiated devotee, he becomes as good as Ganga. Initiated devotee, maybe he can be a Kanishta Adhikari. So my question is that in the purport of the sixth verse of NOI, it is mentioned in the translation that according to ordinary vision, such imperfections may seem prominent in the body of a pure devotee, but despite such seeming defects, the body of a pure devotee cannot be polluted. And you said that entire body of a devotee, even if he's a Kanishta Adhikari, but he is initiated, then he becomes as good as Ganga. But here in this translation, it is said for pure devotees. So they are on the same level, pure devotees and Kanishta Adhikari, or how to understand this pure devotee in this translation of NY 6 verse.
All right. So Srila Prabhupada has specified in the translation of this verse as pure devotee. I had specified this in the previous class. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur see the verse as being applicable mainly to the pure devotee. And Shri Rupa Goswami sees the verse as applicable to all devotees. So I spoke from the point of view of all devotees, because if we apply this verse only to the pure devotees, then we will start fault finding in the other devotees whom we don't consider as pure, and that will be harmful for us. So therefore, the mood of Shri Rupa Goswami is that all the sins are destroyed also in the body of a devotee who has begun the practice of bhakti. I specified the commentary of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also, where he says that kleshagni, destruction of sins, takes place at the moment of beginning of sadhana bhakti. So even for the sadhaka, destructions of sins takes place. Otherwise, what is the meaning of saying that at the time of Diksha all the sins are destroyed? So there will be no meaning to that. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada also says that at the point, many places Prabhupada says at the point of Diksha all the sins are destroyed. So obviously, even a person who is initiated and maybe a Kanishta Adhikari, still for them the verse is technically applicable. Srila Prabhupada has given only pure devotee because his previous two acharyas, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, have spoken it in that context. But then there are acharyas previous to that who have spoken in also in a broader context. So I have specified both contexts in the presentation. I hope that satisfies everybody.
Yes, Puji, thank you so much. And one small query I am typing in chat box. If you like, then you can answer it afterwards. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Next we have Dipayan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Prabhu, for the Vaishnava aparadha remedy, what does it mean to take exclusive shelter of the holy name? Can you explain?
It means that for relieving this particular aparadha, now I cannot perform any other process of atonement. I have to take exclusive shelter of Bhagawan's Naam, because it is Bhagawan's Naam which can relieve me of all aparadhas. This is specified also in the Hari Bhakti Vilas. When the Naam Aparad discussion happens, after the Naam Aparad discussion, how to remove the aparadhas, that also, it takes place. And there it is very clearly described that, let me point out that verse to you from 11th chapter of Hari Bhakti Vilas. Sada Sankirtayan Nama Tadeka Sharano Bhavet. So this is what Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is specifying. See here. Jate Nama Paradheti Pramadena Kathanchana. If Nama Aparadh happens due to inattention, one of the Nama Aparadh is Vaishnava Aparadh also. First Nama Aparadh is to offend a Vaishnava. So there is some common boundary between Nama Aparadh and Vaishnava Aparadh. So what to do? Sada Sankirtayan Nama Tadeka Sharano Bhavet. So always while doing Sankirtan of Shri Krishna Nam, one should take exclusive shelter. So this is because it is specified in the Shastra like that. Therefore, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has also specified like that. That is the answer to your query.
This Sada, does it mean 24 hours or quantity has no role to play?
Can you do 24 hours?
I cannot do. I just asking. Sada means it's told like that sometimes.
Who can do 24 hours?
Not like very advanced person only can do, like Haridas Thakur.
Haridas Thakur is never affected by any aparadha. Why does he need to do any remedy for aparadha?
No, 24 hours I'm saying.
Of course, even if he does that, in his case it is not even needed because he is never affected by aparadha.
Yes.
So what is the verse will become useless if Sada is equal.
Yes.
So I had specified Sada basically means that one should devote a very healthy amount of one's daily practice to it. Sada means regular in schedule every day. That is what it means.
Okay.
Consistent.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We will go to Bhavya Bhagwan Prabhu. Please unmute.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Yeah, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Again, very thankful to you for all this wonderful Q&A session, Prabhu. Prabhuji, my only question was that only. So, should we refrain from quoting that incident of Rupa Goswami?
We should
As
not
practice?
refrain from it, but we should not make a siddhanta out of it. Siddhanta is determined using Shastra. Siddhanta is not determined using stray incidents. The Siddhanta is determined by what Shastra says. So a stray incident may be, having some exceptions, but Shastra has the general rule. And Shastra also covers exceptional situations. So Shastra is what determines the Siddhanta. So that is the answer to that. Because many times I specify a Siddhanta, and then people say, but I have heard from my Gurujanas, I have heard from my Acharya. We should speak in terms of principles, not in terms of personalities. Speak in terms of principles. The question should be, but I have heard in Shastra. That is a principle-based question. So that question will make more sense rather than quoting individual incidents which may have some exceptions. So that is how we should see this particular incident. It may be an incident, I do not know where that incident is mentioned, maybe in one of the authorized biographies. But if it is mentioned in one of the authorized biographies, still that one incident does not determine the Siddhanta. So that is the answer to it.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you. Thank you, Sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Next, we'll go to Bhakti Mataji.
Follow-up question, Prabhuji, on that astrology answer. So on the second point you mentioned about how it helps with finding out muhurtas. Two parts to my question. And again, I do not. So the first part, I've heard, I do not have a Shastric quotation on it, that holy name is the most auspicious, and where in every of our devotional activities, holy name is always there. So no need of any muhurta. So I don't have a spiritual backing on this. I've just heard this my whole life. If this is true, then the second part to this is, then why would any devotee want to go to astrology for muhurta, since holy name precedes all muhurtas?
Oh, wonderful. So why would a person want to go to astrology if holy name supersedes all considerations of muhurta? Because we are performing a seva for Bhagawan. And when we perform a seva for Bhagawan, we perform seva in such a way that all factors are optimized to the utmost auspiciousness that is possible. That is how we would like to render seva to Bhagawan. Nanda Maharaj, Vasudev wanted to ensure the name-giving ceremony of his son. Now Vasudev had seen that his son was none other than the four-handed Lord Vishnu. He had seen in prison. So why did he send Garga Muni quietly to Gokul? He could have just said, my son supersedes everybody because he is four-handed Vishnu. So I will send Garga Muni with a big party declaring that here is my son in Nanda Maharaj's Gokul, and concert. I dare you, try to challenge him. Vasudev could have done in this way. But just because the holy name is all powerful doesn't mean that we stop optimizing other factors. So holy name is the most powerful factor. That is the topmost. Other factors should be considered as favorable entities to the holy name. And if they can be optimized, then that is very good. If they cannot be optimized, then the holy name is always there. For example, in selecting a partner for marriage, so the boy may be initiated, the girl, and he may be looking for an initiated girl. So the boy and girl are both initiated devotees. But just because they are initiated, does it mean that I'll look for the worst possible match and then declare, oh, holy name will solve everything? So that's not how we have to render seva through the marriage. And when render seva through the marriage, we try to find, even astrologically, fine-tune the match as much as possible. And then, if for some reason, the marriage has to take place, but the astrological charts are not matching, and the marriage is unavoidable, then one can take exclusive shelter of the holy name. So that exclusive shelter is mainly meant for those situations. So that is the answer to your query.
Thank you so much. So beautifully explained. Thank you. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. That was a wonderful explanation. Thank you. Next, we have last question by Adi Bhagawan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, yeah, thank you so patiently. You're taking so many questions, Prabhuji. I'm very grateful. So my question, Prabhuji, was about the holy name, destroying the karma, which was mentioned in the class. I wanted to know, Prabhuji, like this holy name seems to be very mysterious agent for destroying karma, and as you mentioned, like it has very sweet will. So one side we see the Ajamila's case where Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is writing in the 6th canto that yatas tad vishayamati means that even once holy name is chanted, Lord's mind dwells on that person and he thinks about him. And on the other, and we have many other verses saying that once holy name chanted, the karma is destroyed. On the other hand, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, as you mentioned, third shar, he mentions that actually the holy name will be destroying only to the extent aparadhas are destroyed. If the aparadhas are destroyed, it will not reveal the power to that extent. So, Prabhuji, I wanted to know this whether Ajamila's case actually it is because of not having any offenses the holy name worked like this, or in general for devotees, what should we understand with respect to holy name?
Right. The thing is, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, when I quoted him, he was not saying that the holy name reveals to the degree aparadhas are destroyed. Otherwise, there will be a big philosophical problem. The big philosophical problem will be holy name will become subservient to aparadhas.
Yeah.
So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur will never say that the holy name is forced to reveal itself only to the extent that the aparadhas are revealed. Because that puts aparadhas on a superior level as compared to the holy name. This will lead to a big philosophical issue. What Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur said is, and I am quoting him again, if there is a devotee who has not attained prema and is still seen to be in material distress, every time we should not put the blame on nam aparadhas. That because he is having nam aparadh, therefore he is like this. It's not like that. Sometimes a devotee may not be having any nam aparadh, but still the devotee does not attain prema. Because prema takes some sweet time to fructify, it will fructify at its own sweet will. So because many times in lectures, and Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur must have also heard in many of the lectures given in his time, that people are not having any taste because of aparadhas and this and that. So he said it's not always because of aparadhas. It is also sometimes because the holy name takes some time to, and it has its own sweet will. So it takes some time and its own sweet will, it will fructify. So because the holy name cannot be bound in a contract that, I will do certain amount of bhakti and you give me Shuddha or Bhagavad Prem, love of Krishna. That those sorts of contracts don't exist with the holy name, and the holy name can never be bound up in any contract. The holy name can also act upon one utterance, and it may also not act upon millions of lives of utterance. So that is the, see, what happens is, especially those of us who are from this part of the world, where competitive exams are very prominent. We start thinking that bhakti is like a competitive exam, and I have to bring first rank in the competitive exam. If I be a diligent student and I study nicely and I remove my aparadhas, and then I will get rank 1, and everybody will know that Pārṣada Das was rank 1 Society of Devotees in the year 2023 amongst all devotees who went back to Godhead. It's not how bhakti works. So bhakti is not a competitive exam. So often I tell, especially to devotees who are from an Indian background, that please let everything in our life we have taken as a competitive exam. Bhakti doesn't work like that. Bhakti can come even to the most unqualified person, and Bhakti Devi may not come even to the materially most qualified person. But I mean, even to a person who has many good qualities. So it is her own sweet will, and she decides by her own sweet free will. Now, hearing this, many people say, well, I don't want to perform it if there is no fixed guarantee. Well, if you want to have a fixed contract, then Bhakti Devi is the incorrect person. Bhakti Devi is not the one who will
Yeah.
get into a fixed contract. So it is her own sweet will. She may give, she may not give. Be prepared for both possibilities. That is what it is. Right?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So now we have reached the end. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for
There
spending
is
so much time.
There is a question in the chat box.
Ah, yes, yes.
There is a question.
Bhaktamal. Is
Yeah.
that the one?
Yeah. So
is Bhaktamal to be considered as authentic scripture?
Is Bhaktamal to be considered as an authentic scripture? Dear devotees, please hear carefully. Scriptures wholesale are not authentic or inauthentic. A scripture may have 99% inauthentic statements from a Vaishnava point of view. But if it has one authentic statement, we can take that one authentic statement from that particular scripture, if we have the caliber to do so. So entire scriptures are not inauthentic or authentic. There is the commentary of Srila Sridhar Swami on Srimad Bhagavatam, which all Gaudiya Vaishnavas respect very much. But in that commentary, also Srila Sridhar Swami has deliberately put some Advaitavad, some impersonalism there. So does it mean that we accept that also? Answer is no. We don't accept the impersonal aspect of the commentary of Srila Sridhar Swami, but we accept the remaining 99.9% of the aspect of Srila Sridhar Swami's commentary, where he has spoken like a pure Vaishnava. So scriptures are not, to be deemed as 100% inauthentic or 100% authentic. Reject this scripture or accept this scripture. This sort of understanding, it spoils any good message that a scripture may have. So basically, the scripture Bhaktamal is a collection of incidents from the lives of many devotees of the past. And any incident or any story or any history which can inspire us on the path of our bhakti is good for us. If you want to ask as a whole scale, was the book approved or not? So the answer is that Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur approved the Bhaktamal literature for those individuals who were preparing for one exam in the Gaudiya Math. I am giving the name of that exam. The name of the exam was called Sampradaya Vaibhav Acharya. So anybody who would clear the Sampradaya Vaibhav Acharya exam, they would be given the title of Sampradaya Vaibhav Acharya. One of the optional readings in those exams was Bhaktamal, Hindi Bhaktamal of Nabhadas. There are many Bhaktamals, but I am referring to Hindi Bhaktamal of Shri Nabhadas, with the commentary by the Gaudiya Vaishnav named Shri Priyadas. So this was considered as required reading, optional reading for preparation of the Sampradaya Vaibhav Acharya exam in the Gaudiya Math. So Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur approved that book for an examination. But still, just because he approved it for an examination, still we should check each and every story. If there is some aspect which is unfavorable for our bhajan, we have the freedom to not accept that particular aspect. So that thinking we have to do. The acharyas will not do all the thinking for us. So sometimes we also have to personally examine each and everything. Puranam ityeva na sadhu sarvam na chapi kavyam navamityavadyam santah parikshanutaram bhajante mudha parapratyayana buddhi. Kalidas says in Malavikagni Mitra Kavyam that Puranam ityeva na sadhu sarvam. Just because something is old literature and accepted by some previous person doesn't mean that immediately you accept it as fully sadhu, fully correct. Na chapi kavyam navamityavadyam. Just because something is new and not so widely accepted doesn't mean that you reject it. Santah parikshanya taram bhajante. And intelligent, saintly souls first test everything and then only accept or reject it. And he says, Mudha parapratyayana buddhi. And foolish people just depend on the opinions of others. So that is what we should not do. We should have a personal yardstick for testing. That is the answer to the query.
But then,
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
What is the fundamental, then the yardstick? Is it Srimad Bhagavatam or?
Fundamental yardstick is Gaudiya Vedanta Darshan, Gaudiya Vaishnava Darshan. If a literature has something, if it has impersonalism within it, if it has non-Vedic elements in it, then those elements should not be accepted, basically. So, Nirvisheshvad, Shunyavad, Jiva Brahma Aikyavad, all these sorts of, and there are Bhautikta, materialism within it. So, there are many Vadas which are against Bhakti. So, anything which is against the principle of Uttama Bhakti, we have the freedom to not accept it. That is the answer to the query.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. And I see Dhāmeśvara Mahāprabhu Prabhu is back. So thank you for spending so much time with all these questions. I think this is such a rare and wonderful opportunity for devotees to go so deep into the understanding of Gaudiya Vaishnava Shastras. We feel very fortunate that you are giving so much time to all of us to educate us on such deep matters. Thank you, Prabhuji. And Dhāmeśvara Mahāprabhu Prabhu, would you like to do the closing part, please?
That's my favorite part, so yeah. Thank you. I'll invite all the devotees to unmute and give a big thank you to Hari Pārṣada Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for extending for such a long time. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Always do the best.
Hari Pārṣada Prabhu ki jai.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for your precious
Thank you so
time.
much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Dhanyavad,
For your
Prabhuji.
mercy.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Srila Rupa ki jai.
Jai. Thank you, Prabhuji. I'm gonna sign off now.
Thank you,
See you all
Dhāmeśvara.
soon. Take care,
Thank you so much,
Paramahansa Prabhu.